One mistaken text message at 3:47 a.m. By dawn, a man who commanded the city's shadows stood at her door, and Jennifer Amber, single mother, three-job survivor, invisible to everyone who mattered, suddenly held the key to unraveling an empire of lies. She'd only wanted to do the right thing. She never imagined the right thing would arrive in a black Mercedes, wearing a $1,000 suit and eyes that had seen too much death. Jennifer Amber's hands trembled as she stared at her techno smartphone, her heart plummeting to her stomach. The blue glow of the sent message illuminated her dark face in the dim light of her cramped apartment bedroom. 3:47 a.m. Her daughter, Maya, slept soundly in the next room, blissfully unaware that her mother had just made a catastrophic mistake that could cost them everything. Mr. Patterson, I found the ledger you've been looking for. The numbers don't add up. I think Mrs. Patterson has been embezzling from the charity foundation. Meet me tomorrow at dawn. We need to talk before she finds out I know. The words glowed accusingly on her screen. Jennifer's breath caught in her throat as reality crashed down on her like a collapsing building. She'd been cleaning the Patterson estate for 3 years, every Tuesday and Friday evening after her hospital shift, and before her weekend overnight at the Korean restaurant. Tonight, while dusting Mrs. Patterson's private study, she'd knocked over a decorative box, and a leather-bound ledger had fallen out from behind it. The numbers inside had made her blood run cold. Donations that never reached the Children's Cancer Foundation. Transfers to offshore accounts. Falsified receipts. Mrs. Burr. Eleanor Patterson, with her perfectly coiffed blonde hair and her charity galas and her tearful speeches about her late son, Tommy, had been stealing from dying children. Welcome back, my wonderful family and friends. If you're excited and ready to dive into this story, hit subscribe and share in the comments where you're watching from, because tomorrow I'll share another story just as captivating. You definitely don't want to miss it. Now, let's continue. Jennifer had lost her husband Marcus to pancreatic cancer 2 years ago. She'd watched him waste away in a hospital bed, watched Maya, only 8 years old then, say goodbye to her daddy. The Tommy Patterson Foundation had helped cover some of their medical bills when their insurance had maxed out. That money had bought Marcus 3 more months of life, 3 more months of bedtime stories and I love you, and memories that Maya could hold on to. And Eleanor Patterson had been stealing from families just like theirs. Jennifer couldn't stand by and watch it happen. She'd photographed every page of the ledger with her phone, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might crack her ribs. Then she'd carefully put everything back exactly as she'd found it, finished her cleaning shift, and driven home in her 15-year-old Honda Civic that burned oil and made concerning noises every time she accelerated. At home, exhausted from working since 5 a.m. that morning, running on 4 hours of sleep and too much cheap coffee, she'd pulled up her contacts and found RP, Richard Patterson, she'd thought, her employer. A good man who deserved to know his wife was betraying him and his dead son's memory. She'd typed out the message, her moral certainty overriding her bone-deep exhaustion, and hit send. Only now, staring at the screen in her dark bedroom, did Jennifer realize her mistake. The message hadn't gone to Richard Patterson, her employer. It had gone to a number saved simply as RP in her phone, a contact she'd added weeks ago when a well-dressed Korean man had handed her his card at the hospital where she worked her morning shift as a janitor. He'd been visiting someone in the ICU, looking lost in the maze of corridors, and Jennifer had noticed him standing at an intersection of hallways, studying the directory with an expression of barely contained frustration. ICU is this way, she'd said quietly, gesturing with her mop. Third floor, east wing. Elevators are around the corner. He'd turned to her, and Jennifer had been struck by his eyes. Dark, intense, intelligent, dangerous. He was tall for a Korean man, maybe 6 feet, with sharp cheekbones and an aura of controlled power that made her instinctively take a step back. Thank you, he'd said in accented English, his voice smooth and cultured. Then he'd reached into his suit jacket. Expensive, Jennifer had noted, probably worth more than 3 months of her rent, and pulled out a business card. In case you ever need help, he'd said, pressing the card into her palm with surprising gentleness. Jennifer had looked down at it. Black cardstock, minimalist design, just a phone number and a name, The shadow, Park Ryung. I don't understand, she'd started to say, but when she looked up, he was already walking toward the elevators, his long strides eating up the distance. She'd pocketed the card, forgotten about it until later that night when she was organizing her contacts. She'd entered it absently, typing the shadow RP. And then, because that seemed too theatrical and she was too tired to think straight, she'd shortened it to just RP. Right above RP, Richard Patterson in her phone. Oh God, Jennifer whispered now, her hand flying to her mouth. Oh God, oh God, oh God. Her phone buzzed in her hand, making her jump so violently she nearly dropped it. Three dots appeared, indicating someone was typing. Jennifer's heart hammered against her ribs as she watched those dots pulse. Address, now. Two words, curt, commanding, completely different from Richard Patterson's usual verbose, patronizing communication style. Jennifer, dear, would you mind terribly staying an extra hour on Friday? Eleanor has a charity event, and you know how she gets about the house being absolutely spotless. I'll add the overtime to your next check, of course. This was something else entirely, something that made every hair on Jennifer's body stand on end. Her hands shook so violently she could barely hold the phone. She started typing a response. I'm so sorry, wrong number, please disregard. But before she could finish, another message appeared. I already have it. Don't run. I'll be there by morning. Jennifer's blood turned to ice. How could he possibly have her address? She hadn't given it to him. They'd only met once for less than 2 minutes in a hospital hallway. Unless, unless he was exactly who the whispers at her evening job said he was. Jennifer worked Friday and Saturday nights at Kimchi House, a Korean restaurant in the business district. She bussed tables, washed dishes, did whatever was needed. The Korean staff there spoke mostly to each other, often forgetting that Jennifer, invisible Jennifer, the black cleaning lady, understood more than they thought. Her late husband Marcus had been half Korean, had taught her bits and pieces of the language. She'd picked up more working at the restaurant, and she'd heard them talk about the shadow, Park Ryung, Korean Mafia boss, the man who controlled half the city's underground operations, money laundering, protection rackets, information brokerage, and things Jennifer didn't want to think about. They said he was brilliant, ruthless, and utterly untouchable. They said he had people everywhere, eyes and ears in every corner of the city. They said he could find anyone, ruin anyone, make anyone disappear. And Jennifer had just accidentally sent him evidence of high society embezzlement. She dropped her phone onto her bed and stood up, her legs shaking. Think, Jennifer. Think. Her eyes darted to her closed bedroom door, behind which Maya slept in the apartment's only other bedroom, a tiny space barely big enough for a twin bed and a dresser. Should she wake her daughter? Should they run? But where would they go? Jennifer had maybe $300 in her checking account. Her family was back in Alabama, and she'd burned those bridges when she'd married Marcus against her mother's wishes. She had no friends close enough to impose on at 4 in the morning with a wild story about accidentally texting a mafia boss. The police. Should she call the police? And tell them what? That she'd stolen evidence from her employer's house? Because, yes, technically, she'd stolen those photographs and accidentally sent it to a known criminal. They'd arrest her for theft. She'd lose custody of Maya. Her daughter would end up in the system, just like Jennifer had been after her father died, and her mother couldn't cope. Jennifer couldn't let that happen. She wouldn't. Her phone buzzed again. Against her better judgment, she picked it up. I'm not going to hurt you, Miss Amber, but we need to talk about what you found. What you sent me changes everything. How did he know her name? Jennifer's hands were shaking so hard now that she could barely read the screen. Another message appeared. You did the right thing reaching out. More right than you know. Trust me until morning. I'll explain everything. Trust him? Trust a mafia boss? Jennifer almost laughed, but the sound that came out was closer to a sob. She sank back down onto her bed, her mind racing through impossible scenarios. She thought about the ledger, the photographs on her phone, Evidence of Eleanor Patterson stealing from a children's cancer charity. From families like hers, like the one she'd had with Marcus. The evidence. Her purse. Jennifer lunged for it, hanging on the back of her desk chair. With trembling fingers, she pulled out her phone. No, wait. Her phone was in her hand. Her other phone. She had two phones. Her personal Techno smartphone and the cheap prepaid flip phone she used for work calls to save on her data plan. The photographs were on her Techno, the one she was holding, the one that the shadow would presumably expect her to have when he arrived by morning. Jennifer looked at her bedroom window. The curtains were thin, letting in the orange glow of the streetlight outside. Her apartment was on the third floor of a rundown building in a neighborhood where most people minded their own business because they had too many problems of their own. Below, the street was empty, except for a few parked cars. None of them the black Mercedes she imagined a mafia boss would drive. Not yet. She checked the time. 3:52 a.m. Morning could mean anything. Sunrise was around 6:30 this time of year. Would he come then? Earlier? Later? Jennifer made a decision. She couldn't run, couldn't fight, couldn't call the police. So she would do what she'd been doing her entire life. Survive. She'd meet him when he came. She'd explain the mistake. She'd delete the photographs if he asked. She'd do whatever it took to protect Maya. But she wouldn't go down without understanding what was happening. Jennifer opened her internet browser and searched Park Ryung the Shadow. What came up made her stomach turn. News articles, blog posts, forum discussions. The man was a ghost. Few photographs, fewer facts, but plenty of speculation and rumor. The articles that did exist were vague, mentioning alleged ties to organized crime and person of interest in multiple investigations, but never any charges, never any proof. One article from 3 years ago caught her eye. Mysterious benefactor donates $2 million to Children's Hospital Wing. The donation had been anonymous, but sources speculated it had come from Park Ryung after his younger sister had been treated there for injuries sustained in what the article carefully called an incident. A children's hospital, just like the one where she'd met him, where she worked. Jennifer's mind spun. Nothing made sense. Why would a criminal donate to a children's hospital? Why would he care about Eleanor Patterson's embezzlement? Why would he promise not to hurt her? She looked at her phone again, at those last messages. You did the right thing reaching out. More right than you know. What did that mean? Sleep never came. Jennifer spent the dark hours pacing her small apartment, checking on Maya every 10 minutes. Her daughter slept peacefully, her stuffed rabbit clutched to her chest, her beautiful brown skin illuminated by her nightlight that projected stars on the ceiling. Marcus had bought that nightlight, back when he was still healthy, back when they'd still believed in futures and dreams and growing old together. Jennifer stood in Maya's doorway and made herself a promise. Whatever happened when the shadow arrived, she would protect her daughter. Even if it meant making deals with devils. Even if it meant compromising every principle she'd ever held. Maya came first. Maya always came first. At 5:30 a.m., Jennifer gave up on any pretense of rest. She took a quick shower, changed into clean jeans and a sweater, wanting to look presentable but not like she was trying too hard. She made coffee, burning her tongue on the first sip because her hands were still shaking. She checked her phone obsessively. No new messages. At 5:45 a.m., she heard a car engine outside. Different from the usual neighborhood sounds, smoother, more powerful. Jennifer rushed to her window and pulled back the curtain just enough to peer down at the street. A black Mercedes had pulled up to her building. As she watched, a man emerged from the driver's side, the same man from the hospital. The shadow, Park Ryung. Even from 3 floors up, even in the pre-dawn darkness, Jennifer could see the controlled power in the way he moved. He was dressed impeccably in a black suit despite the early hour, his hair perfectly styled. He closed his car door with a soft click that somehow carried up to her window, then looked up directly at her apartment. Jennifer jerked back from the window, her heart hammering. Had he seen her watching? Of course he had. He probably had every window memorized, probably knew exactly which apartment was hers. She watched as he entered the building, heard the heavy door close behind him, heard footsteps on the stairs, measured, unhurried, inevitable. Jennifer's breath came in short gasps. She looked at Maya's closed door, then at her own front door. She could lock it, could refuse to answer, could three precise raps on the door, not loud, not aggressive, just certain. The knock of someone who knew they would be let in eventually. Jennifer's hand flew to her mouth, just as it had hours earlier when she'd discovered her mistake. She stared at the door, paralyzed by indecision and fear. Another knock, same rhythm. Three precise raps. Ms. Amber. His voice came through the door, smooth and controlled. I know you're frightened, but I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here because what you sent me tonight changes everything. Please, let me explain. Jennifer's legs moved before her brain caught up. She crossed her small living room. 10 steps. That's all it took to cross her entire living space, and put her hand on the doorknob. Her fingers trembled as they closed around the cool metal. She thought of Maya, sleeping peacefully. She thought of Marcus, gone 2 years now. She thought of that ledger, those photographs, those stolen donations. She thought of what her grandmother used to say, sometimes the only way out is through. Jennifer opened the door. The shadow stood in her doorway, his expression unreadable as he held up his phone displaying her message. Up close, he was even more striking than she remembered. Sharp cheekbones, intelligent dark eyes, an aura of controlled danger that made Jennifer's breath catch. But there was something else, too. Something she hadn't noticed in the hospital hallway. A deep weariness around his eyes, a tightness in his jaw that spoke of burdens carried and prices paid. Ms. Amber, he said, his voice smooth and controlled. We need to talk. I, I'm so sorry, Jennifer stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. She was acutely aware of how she must look. Tired, frightened, standing in her threadbare apartment in clothes from Target that she'd had for 5 years. That message wasn't meant for you. It was a mistake. Please, I have a daughter. I know. He glanced past her into the apartment, his gaze tracking across her space in one quick, comprehensive sweep. Then his eyes landed on the photos of Maya on the wall. Maya as a baby, Maya on her first day of school, Maya with Marcus before the cancer had stolen him away, and something in his expression softened almost imperceptibly. Maya, she's 10 years old, attends Jefferson Elementary, honor roll student. Jennifer's blood ran cold. He'd researched her daughter. How do you... I research anyone who could potentially be useful or dangerous to me, the shadow said simply. When you helped me at the hospital, I ran a background check. Standard procedure. I know you're a widow, that you work 3 jobs to support your daughter, that you're 3 months behind on rent but still manage to keep food on the table and pay for Maya's after-school program. His dark eyes fixed on hers. I know you're a good person, Ms. Amber, which makes what happened tonight even more interesting. Jennifer didn't know whether to be terrified or offended. She settled on honest. If you know all that, then you know I'm nobody. I made a mistake. I meant to text my employer about his wife's... what she's doing. I didn't mean to involve you. Please, just forget about it. I'll delete everything. We can both pretend this never happened. That's not possible, Wyatt the Shadow said, and something in his tone made Jennifer's knees weak. May I come in? This conversation is better had in private. Every instinct screamed at Jennifer to refuse, to slam the door and grab Maya and run. But there was something in his eyes. Not a threat exactly, but a certainty. He could come in whether she invited him or not. The door, the locks, the police, none of it would stop him if he truly wanted to enter. So she might as well choose cooperation, might as well maintain the illusion of control. Jennifer stepped aside. The shadow entered Jennifer's apartment with the fluid grace of a predator, his movements economical and precise. He closed the door behind him with a soft click that somehow felt louder than a slam. Jennifer's heart hammered as she watched him survey her small living space. The sagging couch she'd bought secondhand, the coffee table with one wobbly leg propped up with folded cardboard, the walls painted a dingy beige that no amount of cleaning could brighten. If he judged her poverty, his face didn't show it. Instead, he moved to the couch and sat down as if it were a throne, his posture perfect. his suit somehow remaining immaculate despite the worn fabric beneath him. He gestured to the chair opposite, an old recliner that had been Marcus's favorite, the one Jennifer couldn't bring herself to get rid of, even though the leather was cracked and the mechanism no longer worked. Please sit, the shadow said, as if this were his apartment and not hers. Jennifer remained standing, her arms crossed over her chest. You said we needed to talk, so talk. But keep your voice down. My daughter is sleeping. Of course. He reached into his suit jacket, and Jennifer tensed, half expecting a weapon. Instead, he pulled out a phone, not the one she'd texted, but a different device, sleeker and more expensive looking. He tapped the screen a few times, then held it out to her. Look at this. Jennifer hesitated, then moved closer, taking the phone from his outstretched hand. Their fingers brushed for a moment, and she was surprised by the warmth of his skin. She'd expected him to be cold somehow, as cold as his reputation. The phone displayed a photograph of a document, a financial record, similar to the ledger she'd found but more detailed. Jennifer's eyes widened as she scanned the numbers. Transfers in the millions, account numbers, dates going back 2 years. The Patterson Foundation, the shadow said quietly. I've been investigating them for 6 months. Did you know Eleanor Patterson has been funneling money to offshore accounts? Not just from the charity, from her husband's investment firm as well. She's planning to disappear with nearly $40 million. Jennifer's hand flew to her mouth, her other hand nearly dropping the phone. 40 million? But the charity, the children, are collateral damage. The shadow's voice hardened. Eleanor Patterson is a sociopath with expensive tastes and a gambling problem. She's been losing money in high-stakes games in Macau, desperate to recoup her losses. 2 years ago, she made a deal with the Morozov family, Russian organized crime. They needed a way to launder money, and she needed capital. The charity became their washing machine. Jennifer sank into Marcus's old recliner, her legs no longer able to support her weight. I don't understand. Why would you care? You're... She stopped, suddenly aware that she was talking to a dangerous man about his criminal activities. I'm what? The shadow leaned forward, his dark eyes intense. A criminal? Yes, but I have principles, Ms. Amber. Contrary to popular belief, not everyone in my line of work operates without a code. He stood and moved to her window, looking out at the slowly lightening sky. When he spoke again, his voice was quieter, almost reflective. Eleanor Patterson's arrangement with the Morozovs makes my operations look suspicious by association. The charity operates in many of the same circles I do. The same banks, the same social networks. When the FBI eventually catches her, and they will, they'll scrutinize everyone connected to the Patterson Foundation. That includes several legitimate businesses I've invested in. So this is about protecting yourself, Jennifer said, and she couldn't keep the bitterness from her voice. The shadow turned back to face her. Partially, but not entirely. He moved back to the couch, and when he sat this time, something in his posture had changed. Less predatory, more human. My mother died of cancer when I was 12 years old. Ovarian cancer. We were poor, newly immigrated, and the medical bills destroyed what little we had. My father worked himself to death trying to pay them off. He died when I was 15. Jennifer saw a flicker of old pain cross his face, quickly masked but unmistakable. She thought of Marcus wasting away in that hospital bed, of the bills that had piled up despite the Tommy Patterson Foundation's help. I'm sorry, she said quietly, and meant it. So am I. The shadow's jaw tightened. Which is why I care very much about what Eleanor Patterson is doing. She's stealing from cancer patients, from children dying in hospital beds, from families like yours, Ms. Amber, like mine was. His dark eyes locked onto hers. That is something I cannot allow to continue, regardless of the business implications. Jennifer stared at him, trying to reconcile the Korean Mafia boss with the man sitting on her couch, speaking of dead mothers and stolen hope. I still don't understand what you want from me. Your cooperation. He pulled out his other phone, the one she'd texted, and showed her the message again. And in exchange, I'll make sure you and Maya are protected. Eleanor Patterson is dangerous when cornered. When this breaks, and it will break soon, she'll want to know who exposed her. She'll come looking for the source. A chill ran down Jennifer's spine. She thought of Eleanor Patterson. Beautiful, poised, always perfectly dressed, always wearing that practiced smile at charity events. Jennifer had cleaned her house for 3 years and had never suspected the woman was capable of anything more sinister than social climbing and mild condescension. How protected? Jennifer asked. The shadow tapped his phone screen a few times, then turned it to show her a bank transfer screen. Jennifer's eyes widened as she read the numbers. $50,000. Scheduled transfer to an account in her name. Considerate payment for your evidence and your discretion, he said. Jennifer's first instinct was to refuse, to maintain her pride and her integrity. But then she thought of Maya, of the rent she was behind on, of the electricity bill she'd been putting off, of the fact that her daughter's shoes were getting too small, and Jennifer had been hoping they'd last another few months. I don't want your money, she heard herself say, surprising even herself with the firmness in her voice. I just want to do the right thing. Those children deserve that money. Mr. Patterson deserves to know the truth about what his wife is doing. The shadow studied her for a long moment, something like admiration flickering in his eyes. You're either remarkably brave or remarkably foolish, Ms. Amber. In my world, the two are often indistinguishable. He stood, buttoning his suit jacket with precise movements. But I respect your integrity. The money will be transferred regardless. Call it insurance for Maya's future. College, perhaps? Or medical emergencies? Or simply the ability to say no to jobs that exploit you. Jennifer opened her mouth to protest, but he held up a hand. This is not a debate. The transfer is already scheduled. It will appear in your account within the hour as a retroactive bonus from the hospital where you work. Completely legitimate, completely taxed, completely yours. He moved toward the door, then paused. Now, about the evidence. I need you to send me those photographs you took of the ledger. Jennifer hesitated. Sending him the photos felt like crossing a line, like becoming complicit in whatever he was planning. But hadn't she already crossed that line when she'd accidentally texted him in the first place? What are you going to do with them? She asked. The FBI will receive an anonymous tip this afternoon with all the evidence they need to arrest Eleanor Patterson. Your photographs, combined with the financial records I've been compiling, will be more than enough for a conviction. He met her eyes. Your name will never be mentioned. As far as anyone knows, I was the source, the mysterious informant with connections to organized crime who decided to blow the whistle on Russian money laundering operations. Why? Jennifer stood up, facing him. Why would you take that risk for me? You don't even know me. The shadow's expression softened almost imperceptibly. 3 years ago, my younger sister was in trouble. She was staying at a hotel downtown and things... He paused, choosing his words carefully. Things went wrong. A maid at that hotel noticed the signs, noticed that my sister was in danger. That woman called the police. She saved my sister's life. Jennifer's breath caught. She thought of her own daughter, sleeping peacefully in the next room. I never got to thank that woman, the shadow continued. She disappeared before I could find her, probably scared of the attention. But I've been looking for a way to repay that debt ever since. He pulled a different card from his pocket. Plain white, no name, just a phone number. Consider this my way of repaying what I owe to someone like her, to someone like you. He held out the card, and after a moment, Jennifer took it. The cardstock was thick, expensive. The number was handwritten in precise, elegant script. If you or Maya ever need help, real help, not just money, call this number. No strings attached, no favors owed. You have my word, and despite what you might think, my word means something. Jennifer looked down at the card in her hand, then back up at the shadow. I still don't understand you. Good, he said, and for the first time, she saw the ghost of a smile on his lips. That means you're smarter than most people I deal with. Understanding me would make you either an ally or an enemy, and I'd prefer you remain neither. Just a good person I helped once, who helped me in return, even if accidentally. He opened the door, then turned back one last time. Send me the photographs within the hour. Delete them from your phone after. Don't go to work at the Patterson estate anymore. Call in sick, quit, whatever you need to do. But don't set foot in that house again. Eleanor Patterson will be arrested tomorrow morning. After that, you'll never have to worry about her again. And what about you? Jennifer asked. What happens to you when the FBI investigates? The shadow's smile widened slightly, becoming something dangerous and confident. Ms. Amber, I didn't survive this long by being careless. The evidence trail will lead exactly where I want it to lead, and I'll be exactly where I need to be when it does. Trust me on that. He stepped into the hallway, then paused once more. One more thing. The hospital where you work, they're about to receive a significant anonymous donation, enough to expand their oncology wing and hire more staff. I expect that will create some better positions. You might want to update your resume. Before Jennifer could respond, he was gone, his footsteps receding down the stairs with that same measured, unhurried pace. She stood in her doorway, the card clutched in her hand, listening to the sound of the Mercedes starting up and pulling away from the curb. Slowly, she closed her door and locked it. Then she sank down onto her couch, the same spot where the shadow had sat, and tried to process what had just happened. A Korean Mafia boss had sat in her living room and promised to take down Eleanor Patterson. He'd offered her money, protection, and a future. He'd revealed a code of ethics she hadn't expected, a personal history that made him seem almost human. And the most terrifying part? Jennifer believed him. She pulled out her techno phone and opened her photos, looking at the images of the ledger she'd taken. Her thumb hovered over the delete button. This was it. Her last chance to back out, to pretend none of this had happened, to return to her invisible life of 3 jobs and constant worry. But then she thought of Marcus, of the families the Patterson Foundation had helped, really helped, before Eleanor had turned it into a criminal enterprise, of the children who were dying right now, whose families were drowning in medical bills while Eleanor Patterson gambled away their donations in Macau. Jennifer opened her messages and found the shadow's contact. Her fingers trembled as she selected the photos and hit send. One by one, the images were uploaded, 18 photographs of Eleanor Patterson's secret ledger, each one a nail in the woman's coffin. When the last one was sent, Jennifer's phone immediately buzzed with a response. Received. Delete them now. And Miss Amber, thank you. You did more good tonight than you know. Jennifer deleted the photos from her phone, then deleted the messages between them. She sat in the growing dawn light, the card with the shadow's number in her hand, and wondered if she'd just made a deal with the devil or found an unlikely guardian angel. Behind her, she heard Maya's door open. Small footsteps padded into the living room, and then her daughter's sleepy voice asked, "Mama, why are you up so early?" Jennifer turned and smiled at Maya, her beautiful, perfect daughter with Marcus's eyes and her own determination. "I just couldn't sleep, baby. Come here." Maya climbed onto the couch and curled into Jennifer's side, warm and trusting. Jennifer wrapped her arms around her daughter and held her close, inhaling the scent of her strawberry shampoo and childhood innocence. "Mama, you're shaking," Maya murmured. "I'm okay," Jennifer whispered, pressing a kiss to the top of Maya's head. "Everything's going to be okay." And for the first time in 2 years, since Marcus had died and left her alone with a 10-year-old and 3 jobs and endless worry, Jennifer actually believed it. Her phone buzzed again. She picked it up, expecting another message from the shadow. Instead, it was a notification from her bank. Deposit, $50,000, retroactive bonus payment, St. Mercy's Hospital. Jennifer stared at the screen, her heart pounding. $50,000. More money than she'd ever had in her life. Money that could pay off her debt, buy Maya new clothes, maybe even let Jennifer cut down to 2 jobs instead of 3. But it was also money from a criminal. Money that came with an implicit understanding. She was in the shadow's orbit now, whether she wanted to be or not. "Mama?" Maya looked up at her with those big, curious eyes. "What's wrong?" Jennifer forced another smile and tucked her phone away. "Nothing, baby. I just got some good news from work, that's all. How about we make pancakes for breakfast? The special ones with chocolate chips?" Maya's face lit up. Really? But you always say those are only for special occasions. This is a special occasion, Jennifer said, standing up and pulling her daughter toward the kitchen. Trust me. As she mixed the batter and heated the griddle, as Maya chattered excitedly about her upcoming field trip and the book report she needed to finish, Jennifer's mind kept returning to the card in her pocket. The Shadow's number, a direct line to one of the most dangerous men in the city. She thought about what he'd said, that his word meant something, that he'd help if she ever needed it, no strings attached. Could she trust that? Could she trust him? More importantly, did she have any choice? The pancakes sizzled on the griddle, filling the small apartment with the smell of chocolate and warmth. Maya laughed at something, and Jennifer smiled automatically, her hands moving through the familiar motions of breakfast preparation, while her mind spun with questions and fears, and the strange, impossible hope that maybe, just maybe, things were about to change. Outside, the sun had fully risen, painting the dingy buildings of her neighborhood in shades of gold and amber. Somewhere in the city, Eleanor Patterson was waking up in her mansion, completely unaware that her carefully constructed world was about to come crashing down. And somewhere else, the Shadow was setting his plans in motion, pulling strings and manipulating systems and ensuring that justice, his version of it at least, would be served. Jennifer plated the pancakes and sat down across from Maya at their tiny kitchen table. Her daughter dug in enthusiastically, chocolate smearing across her smile, and for a moment, everything felt normal. Safe. Like the world made sense. But Jennifer knew better now. She knew that beneath the surface of ordinary life there were currents and dangers she'd never imagined. She knew that one mistaken text message had pulled her into a world of organized crime and high-stakes corruption. She knew that her life would never be quite the same. And most terrifying of all, she knew that she'd made her choice. She'd chosen to help, to do the right thing, even when it meant dealing with the wrong kind of people. She'd chosen to trust the Shadow, or at least to accept his help. Now she would have to live with the consequences of that choice, whatever they might be. Mama? Maya asked around with a mouthful of pancakes. You're being weird today, Jennifer laughed, a real laugh this time, not forced. I know, baby. I'm just tired. It was a long night. Did you have to work super late again? Something like that. Maya nodded wisely, as if she understood the burdens of adulthood, then returned her attention to her breakfast. Jennifer watched her daughter eat and felt a fierce surge of protective love, so strong it almost hurt. Whatever happened next, whatever consequences came from her accidental message, from the Shadow's intervention, from Eleanor Patterson's downfall, Jennifer would face it. She'd survived losing Marcus. She'd survived poverty and exhaustion, and the grinding stress of trying to provide for Maya on her own. She could survive this too. Her phone buzzed again. Another notification, this one from Richard Patterson. Jennifer, I hope you're feeling well. Eleanor mentioned she won't need the house cleaned this week. Please take the time off with pay. Consider it our thanks for your dedicated service. Jennifer's blood ran cold. Eleanor knew. Somehow, impossibly, Eleanor knew something was wrong. Was canceling the cleaning service her first move? Was she preparing to run? Or worse, was she preparing to eliminate loose ends? Jennifer's hand moved to her pocket, feeling the outline of the Shadow's card through the fabric of her jeans. He'd said he would protect her and Maya. He'd given his word. But how much was a criminal's word worth? Mama, you're doing it again, Maya said. The worried face. Jennifer forced herself to relax, to smile. Sorry, sweetie, just thinking about work stuff. Nothing for you to worry about. But as Maya finished her breakfast and went to get ready for school, Jennifer couldn't shake the feeling that she'd set something in motion that couldn't be stopped now. The wheels were turning. The Shadow was moving. Eleanor Patterson was either oblivious or aware and dangerous. And Jennifer was caught in the middle, with nothing but a card with a phone number and the word of a man she barely knew. She looked at the clock. 7:15 a.m. Maya's school bus came at 7:45. Jennifer had 30 minutes to pull herself together, to be the mom Maya needed her to be, to pretend that everything was normal and fine and safe. 30 minutes before she had to decide what to do next. 30 minutes before her new life, whatever that would look like, truly began. Jennifer stood at the bus stop with Maya, her hand gripping her daughter's shoulder, perhaps a little too tightly. The morning was crisp and clear, the kind of October day that would have felt perfect under different circumstances. Other parents and children clustered in small groups, chatting about homework and weekend plans, their voices creating a familiar soundtrack of suburban normalcy. But Jennifer couldn't stop scanning the street, looking for threats she couldn't even name. Every passing car made her tense. Every stranger's glance felt weighted with meaning. The shadow had promised protection, but what did that actually mean? Were there people watching her right now? His people? Or worse, Eleanor Patterson's? Mom, you're squishing me, Maya complained, wiggling out from under Jennifer's grip. Sorry, baby. Jennifer forced her hand to relax, though every instinct screamed at her to hold Maya closer, to never let her out of sight. Are you sure you're okay? Maya looked up at her with those perceptive brown eyes that saw too much. You've been acting super weird since this morning. I'm fine, Jennifer lied. Just tired from work. You know how it is. Maya nodded, but the concern didn't leave her face. At 10 years old, she'd already learned to read her mother's moods, to sense when the weight of their circumstances was pressing too hard. It was a skill no child should need to develop, and Jennifer hated that her daughter had been forced to mature so quickly. The yellow school bus rumbled around the corner, its brakes squealing as it pulled to a stop. Children began climbing aboard, backpacks bouncing, voices raised in greeting to friends already on the bus. Maya, Jennifer said suddenly, crouching down to her daughter's eye level. I need you to promise me something. Maya's eyes widened slightly. Okay. If anyone, and I mean anyone you don't know, tries to talk to you today, or after school, or any time, you go straight to a teacher or the principal. Don't talk to them. Don't go anywhere with them. Just find an adult you trust immediately. Can you do that? Mom, you're scaring me. Maya's voice had gone small and uncertain. Jennifer pulled her daughter into a tight hug, breathing in her scent, memorizing the feeling of her small body in her arms. I'm sorry, baby. I don't mean to scare you. There's some grown-up stuff happening, and I need to know you'll be safe. Please, promise me. I promise, Maya whispered against Jennifer's shoulder. But you're really freaking me out. I know. I'm sorry. Jennifer pulled back and forced her brightest smile. Everything's going to be fine. I'm just being extra careful, okay? Now go on. You're going to miss your bus. Maya climbed aboard, stopping at the top of the steps to wave back at Jennifer. Jennifer waved back, keeping that smile plastered on her face until the bus pulled away and disappeared around the corner. Only then did she allow herself to sag, the fear and exhaustion of the past few hours finally catching up to her. She pulled out her phone and looked at the time. 7:52 a.m. She had to be at the hospital by 9 for her cleaning shift. But first, she needed to figure out what to do about the Patterson estate. Richard Patterson's message had been clear. Eleanor didn't want the house cleaned this week. Was it just a coincidence? Or had Eleanor somehow realized that something was wrong? That someone had discovered her secrets? Jennifer pulled out the Shadow's card and stared at the handwritten number. She could call him, ask him if Maya was really safe, if she should be worried about Eleanor Patterson coming after her, but something held her back. Pride, maybe? Or the fear that calling him would make this whole nightmare more real? Instead, she called the hospital and did something she almost never did. She called in sick. I'm so sorry. This is Jennifer Amber, she said when the supervisor answered. I'm not feeling well this morning. I think I've got a stomach bug or something. I won't be able to make my shift. There was a pause on the other end of the line, and Jennifer held her breath. She'd worked at St. Mercy's Hospital for 2 years and had never once called in sick. Her perfect attendance record was one of the few things she took pride in. That's fine, Jennifer, the supervisor said, her tone warmer than Jennifer expected. Actually, this works out well. I was going to call you later anyway. Can you come in tomorrow morning instead? There's something the hospital administration wants to discuss with you. Jennifer's heart skipped. Discuss with me? About what? I'm not entirely sure. They just said they wanted to meet with you about a potential position change. Good news from what I gather. Come in at 8 tomorrow, okay? Feel better. The line went dead before Jennifer could respond. She stared at her phone, the shadow's words echoing in her mind. The hospital where you work, they're about to receive a significant anonymous donation, enough to expand their oncology wing and hire more staff. I expect that will create some better positions. You might want to update your resume. Was this it? Was this part of whatever the shadow had set in motion? Jennifer's hands trembled as she pocketed her phone. Everything was moving so fast, too fast. She felt like she was standing on a cliff edge, the ground crumbling beneath her feet, with no way to stop the fall. She walked back to her apartment building, her mind spinning. What was she supposed to do with herself now? She'd called in sick to the hospital, and she wasn't scheduled at Kimchi House until tomorrow night. She should probably spend the time catching up on sleep, on laundry, on all the household tasks that constantly piled up when you work 3 jobs. But instead, she found herself sitting on her couch with her laptop, an ancient machine Marcus had bought at a pawn shop years ago, searching for news about Eleanor Patterson. Nothing yet. No arrests, no scandal, no hint that anything was wrong in the perfect world of the Patterson family. Eleanor's social media was full of carefully curated photos from her latest charity gala, her smile bright and false, her designer dress probably costing more than Jennifer made in 6 months. Jennifer stared at that smile and felt anger burning in her chest. This woman had stolen from dying children, had perverted a foundation created in memory of her own dead son, had betrayed her husband and everyone who'd trusted her, and she was still out there, still smiling, still free. Not for long, Jennifer thought grimly. The shadow promised. By tomorrow, she'll be arrested. Her phone buzzed, making her jump. Unknown number. Jennifer's finger hovered over the decline button, then something made her answer. Hello? Ms. Amber. The shadow's smooth voice filled her ear, and Jennifer's grip tightened on the phone. I wanted to inform you that everything is proceeding as planned. The FBI received the anonymous tip an hour ago. They're currently securing warrants. Eleanor Patterson will be taken into custody tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. How do you know that? Jennifer whispered. How can you possibly know the exact timing? A pause. Then, because I have friends in useful places, Ms. Amber. Friends who owe me favors. Friends who understand that sometimes the law needs a gentle push in the right direction. Jennifer closed her eyes. You have people inside the FBI. I have people everywhere. His tone was matter of fact, neither proud nor ashamed. How else do you think I've stayed in business this long? But that's not why I'm calling. I'm calling because I need you to understand something very important. What? Eleanor Patterson is going to realize soon, possibly within the next few hours, that something is wrong. She has her own sources, her own warning systems. When she realizes the FBI is closing in, she will become desperate. And desperate people do desperate things. Jennifer's blood ran cold. You said you'd protect us. You said Maya would be safe. And she will be. I have 2 of my people stationed near Maya's school and another watching your building. But I need you to be smart about this. Don't go anywhere alone. Don't answer the door for anyone you don't know. And most importantly, if Eleanor Patterson or anyone associated with her tries to contact you, you call me immediately. Do you understand? Yes, Jennifer breathed. Good. There's one more thing. The shadow's voice softened slightly. I know you're frightened. I know this is more than you bargained for when you accidentally sent me that message. But you should know that what you did, bringing this information to light, even accidentally, is going to save lives. The money Eleanor Patterson stole would have continued helping children with cancer once she's arrested, and the funds are recovered. You did that, Miss Amber. You should be proud. Jennifer felt tears prickling at the corners of her eyes. I just wanted to do the right thing. I know. That's why I'm helping you. A pause. Try to rest today. Stay inside. Stay alert, but don't let fear consume you. This will be over soon, and then you and Maya can go back to your normal lives. Better than normal, actually, given the position change at the hospital. How did you? But the line was already dead. Jennifer sat staring at her phone, trying to process everything. The shadow had people watching her building, watching Maya's school, He'd somehow influenced the hospital to offer her a better position. He had sources inside the FBI who told him the exact timing of Eleanor Patterson's arrest. Who was this man? What kind of power did he wield? And why was he using it to help her? Jennifer didn't have answers to any of those questions. All she knew was that she'd stumbled into something far bigger and more dangerous than she'd ever imagined. And her only lifeline was a criminal who collected debts and traded favors like currency. She spent the rest of the morning in a state of anxious limbo, jumping at every sound, checking her phone compulsively for news or messages or threats. She tried to eat lunch, but couldn't stomach more than a few bites. She tried to watch TV, but couldn't focus on anything. At 2:30 p.m., her phone rang. Richard Patterson's name appeared on the screen. Jennifer's hand shook as she answered. Hello? Jennifer? Richard Patterson's voice sounded strained, older than she remembered. Jennifer, I'm so sorry to bother you, especially since you're not feeling well, but I need to ask you something. Jennifer's heart pounded. Of course, Mr. Patterson. What is it? Have you have you noticed anything unusual at the house? Anything out of place or anyone going through Eleanor's things? So Eleanor had noticed. She'd discovered the ledger was disturbed, or she'd somehow sensed that her secrets were unraveling. Jennifer's mind raced. What should she say? The truth? A lie? I don't think so, Mr. Patterson, she said carefully. Why, is something wrong? A long pause then. Eleanor seems to think someone has been in her private study. She's very upset about it. But I told her you're the only person besides us who has access to the house, and you've been with us for years. I trust you completely, Jennifer. I just needed to confirm that you haven't seen anything suspicious. Jennifer closed her eyes, guilt and fear warring in her chest. Richard Patterson was a good man, absent-minded and a bit condescending, perhaps, but fundamentally decent. He'd given her stable work for 3 years, had always paid her on time, had even given her an extra week's pay when Marcus died. And now his wife was about to be arrested, his foundation exposed as a front for money laundering, and his entire world was about to come crashing down, and he had no idea. No, Mr. Patterson, Jennifer said quietly. I haven't seen anything suspicious. I'm sorry I can't be more helpful. That's all right. Thank you, Jennifer. I'm sorry to have bothered you while you're ill. Feel better, and we'll see you next week. The line went dead. Jennifer sat frozen, staring at her phone. Next week. He thought he'd see her next week, thought life would continue as normal, and thought his wife was just being paranoid about her studies. By next week, Eleanor Patterson would be in federal custody, and Richard Patterson's life would be in ruins. Jennifer's phone rang again almost immediately. Another unknown number. This time she answered without hesitation, somehow knowing who it would be. You did well, the shadow said without preamble. Eleanor's panicking, that's good. Panicked people make mistakes. Mr. Patterson trusts me, Jennifer said, her voice breaking slightly. He's a good man, and his whole world is about to fall apart, and he has no idea. Would you rather Eleanor Patterson continue stealing from dying children? The shadow's voice was gentle but firm. Would you rather she take that $40 million and disappear, leaving her husband to face the legal consequences while she lives in luxury on some tropical island? No, but then you did the right thing, Miss Amber. The only thing. Yes, Richard Patterson will be hurt. Yes, he'll have to rebuild his life and his foundation. But he's also a wealthy man with resources and connections. He'll survive this. The children whose treatment his foundation was supposed to fund might not survive if Eleanor's theft continued. Jennifer knew he was right, but it didn't make her feel any better. She thought of all the times she'd cleaned the Patterson estate, had seen the photos of their son Tommy throughout the house, had watched Richard Patterson's eyes go distant and sad whenever he passed those pictures. There's something else you should know, the shadow continued. Eleanor just purchased a plane ticket. Costa Rica one way, leaving tonight at 11 p.m. She's planning to run. Can't you stop her? If you know about the ticket. The FBI knows too. I made sure of it. They've already flagged her passport. She won't make it past airport security. A pause. But this means she's more dangerous now than ever. She knows her time is running out. If she suspects you're involved in any way, she might try to silence you before she runs. Fear spiked through Jennifer's chest. But I didn't. I mean, I was careful. She didn't know it was me. She can't know for certain, the shadow corrected. But you're the only person besides her and her husband who has regular access to her study. If she's noticed the ledger was disturbed, you're the obvious suspect, which is why my people are watching your building, which is why you need to stay inside and stay alert. Jennifer moved to her window and pulled back the curtain slightly, peering down at the street. Everything looked normal. Cars parked along the curb, a few pedestrians walking past, the usual afternoon traffic. She couldn't spot anyone who looked like they were watching her building, but then again, wouldn't professional surveillance be invisible? I'm scared, she admitted quietly. Good. Fear keeps you alert, but don't let it paralyze you. The shadow's voice took on an almost coaching tone. You're stronger than you think, Ms. Amber. You've survived poverty, widowhood, and single parenthood. You've worked 3 jobs to provide for your daughter. You've maintained your integrity in circumstances that would have broken most people. You can survive this too. How do you know all that about me? Jennifer asked. The background check you mentioned. How detailed was it? A soft laugh. Detailed enough. I know you grew up in foster care after your father died and your mother couldn't cope. I know you put yourself through community college while working full time. I know you married Marcus against your family's wishes and that they disowned you for it. I know you held his hand while he died and then got up the next day and went to work because Maya needed to eat. A pause. I know you're a survivor, Jennifer Amber. So survive this too. The use of her first name startled her. He'd been calling her Amber this entire time. Maintaining that formal distance, the shift to her given name felt significant somehow, like a line had been crossed. Why are you really helping me? She asked. And don't tell me it's just about repaying a debt to some anonymous hotel maid. There has to be more to it than that. Silence on the other end of the line. Then, because I'm tired, Jennifer. Tired of watching people like Eleanor Patterson exploit the weak and vulnerable. Tired of seeing corruption and greed disguised as charity. Tired of living in a world where the only way to survive is to become a monster. His voice had gone quiet, almost reflective. You remind me that there are still good people in the world. People who help strangers find the ICU without expecting anything in return. People who risk everything to expose corruption because it's the right thing to do. I need to remember that people like you exist. Jennifer didn't know what to say. This man, this criminal, this mafia boss sounded almost human, almost vulnerable. It was disorienting, like discovering that gravity worked differently than you'd always believed. Thank you, she finally said, for everything, for helping us, for protecting Maya, for believing I did the right thing. Thank you for accidentally texting me, the shadow said, and she could hear the hint of amusement in his voice. It's been an interesting morning. Now stay inside, stay alert, and I'll contact you again after Eleanor Patterson is in custody. This will all be over soon. He hung up before she could respond. Jennifer lowered her phone and moved back to the window, looking out at her neighborhood with new eyes. Somewhere out there, people were watching her building. The shadows people, keeping her and Maya safe. And somewhere else in the city, Eleanor Patterson was panicking, packing, planning her escape that would never come. Jennifer thought about what the shadow had said, that she was stronger than she thought, that she was a survivor. She'd never considered herself particularly strong. She'd always just done what needed to be done, put one foot in front of the other, kept moving forward because stopping meant giving up and she couldn't afford to give up. But maybe that was strength. Maybe survival itself was a form of courage. Her phone buzzed with a text from Maya's school. Reminder, early dismissal today for teacher planning. Students released at 2:45 p.m. Jennifer's heart stopped. Early dismissal. She'd completely forgotten, and it was already 2:40. She grabbed her keys and her phone, her mind racing. Should she drive to the school? But the shadow had said not to go anywhere alone, to stay inside. Should she call him? But Maya would be out in 5 minutes, standing on the curb with the other kids, waiting for Jennifer to pick her up like she always did on early dismissal days. Jennifer made a decision. She would drive to the school, it was only 8 blocks away, and she would be alert the entire time. She would get Maya and bring her straight home, and they would lock themselves inside until this nightmare was over. She was halfway to her car when her phone rang, the shadow. Where are you going? His voice was sharp. Jennifer froze. How did you? My people saw you leave your building. I told you to stay inside. Maya has an early dismissal. I forgot. I have to pick her up from school. A pause. Get back inside. Now. I'll have someone pick up Maya and bring her home. What? No, I'm not letting a stranger. It won't be a stranger. Mrs. Chen from apartment 2B, the elderly Korean woman you help with groceries every week, she's been working for me for 15 years. Maya knows her, correct? Jennifer's mind reeled. Mrs. Chen? Sweet Mrs. Chen? Who always gave Maya honey candies and whose English was broken but whose smile was genuine? She works for you? Has for years. She's actually one of my most reliable operatives. Has been since she immigrated. The shadow's tone softened slightly. I know this is hard to accept, but you need to trust me on this. Eleanor Patterson just left her house. We don't know where she's going, but if she's planning to run, she might try to eliminate loose ends first. I can't protect you if you're driving around the city. Jennifer stood frozen on the sidewalk, torn between maternal instinct and survival instinct. How do I know Mrs. Chen will really bring Maya home? How do I know this isn't? Look up. Jennifer looked up at her building. In the window of apartment 2B, Mrs. Chen stood waving at her, phone pressed to her ear. As Jennifer watched, Mrs. Chen's phone buzzed and she answered it, her cheerful voice carrying faintly down to the street. Hello, Mr. Park. Yes, yes, I see her. Don't worry, I go get little Maya now. Bring her home safe to Mama. Jennifer's phone buzzed with a text from Mrs. Chen. Don't worry, dear. I take good care of Maya. You go inside. Stay safe. I will bring her home soon. Do you believe me now? The shadow asked. Jennifer nodded, then realized he couldn't see her. Yes, I'm going back inside. Good. And Jennifer, lock your door. Don't open it for anyone except Mrs. Chen and Maya. The line went dead. Jennifer stood on the sidewalk for another moment, processing the fact that her elderly neighbor, the woman she'd helped carry groceries, whose apartment she'd cleaned when Mrs. Chen had the flu, who she'd considered one of her few friends in the building, was apparently a Korean Mafia operative. Nothing made sense anymore. Up was down, black was white, and the only people she could trust were criminals. Jennifer walked back into her building, climbed the stairs to her third-floor apartment, and locked herself inside. Then she sat on her couch and waited. Her phone clutched in her hand, her eyes fixed on the door. 15 minutes later, 15 of the longest minutes of Jennifer's life, she heard footsteps on the stairs. Then, Maya's voice, bright and unconcerned. Mrs. Chen, why did you pick me up today instead of Mom? Your mama is not feeling well today, Mrs. Chen's accented voice replied. She asked me to help. Is okay, yes? I guess so. Thanks, Mrs. Chen. A knock on Jennifer's door. Jennifer? Is Mrs. Chen with Maya? We here now. Jennifer looked through the peephole, saw her daughter's face and Mrs. Chen's kind smile, and nearly sobbed with relief. She unlocked the door and pulled Maya into a fierce hug. Mom, you're crushing me again, Maya complained, but she hugged back just as tightly. Thank you, Mrs. Chen, Jennifer said over Maya's head. Thank you so much. Mrs. Dacker Chen's eyes, sharp and knowing behind her wire-rimmed glasses, met Jennifer's. Is okay. You good neighbor. Good mama. Mr. Park say take care of you, so I take care of you. She patted Jennifer's arm. Everything be okay soon, you see? Then she was gone, shuffling back down the hallway to her own apartment, leaving Jennifer alone with her daughter and 1,000 questions she couldn't ask. Mom, seriously, what is going on? Maya demanded. You're acting super weird, and now Mrs. Chen is picking me up from school, and nothing's going on, Jennifer lied. I really am just not feeling well today, and Mrs. Chen offered to help. That's all. Maya crossed her arms and fixed Jennifer with a look that was far too perceptive for a 10-year-old. You're lying. You never lie to me. Something's wrong. Jennifer sank down onto the couch and pulled Maya down next to her. How much could she tell her daughter? How much should she tell her? Maya deserved to know that danger might be coming, but she also deserved to feel safe in her own home. Something is happening, Jennifer finally admitted. But it's grown up stuff, and it's going to be over soon. I need you to trust me, okay? Can you do that? Maya studied her face for a long moment, then, are we in danger? Jennifer hesitated. We might be, but there are people protecting us. Good people. Or at least people who are helping us, she amended silently. Whether they're good is still up for debate. What kind of danger? The kind that will be over by tomorrow, Jennifer said firmly. The kind that you don't need to worry about because your mama and our friends are taking care of it. Maya didn't look convinced, but she nodded slowly. Okay. But Mom, if something bad is happening, you can tell me. I'm not a baby anymore. I can handle stuff. Jennifer pulled her daughter close and pressed a kiss to the top of her head. I know you can, baby. You're the strongest, bravest kid I know, but sometimes being strong means trusting that the adults in your life are doing everything they can to keep you safe. Can you trust me on that? Yeah, Maya whispered. I trust you, Mom. They sat like that for a long time, wrapped around each other on the old couch, while outside the sun began its slow descent toward evening. Somewhere in the city, Eleanor Patterson was packing her bags and planning her escape. Somewhere else, FBI agents were preparing warrants and coordinating the timing of tomorrow morning's arrest. And somewhere, maybe close, maybe far, the shadow was pulling strings and moving pieces on a chessboard Jennifer couldn't see. All she could do was hold her daughter and wait for morning, when this nightmare would finally be over. Or at least that's what she told herself. In reality, Jennifer was beginning to suspect that the nightmare was just beginning. Night fell over the city like a heavy blanket, and with it came a suffocating sense of dread that Jennifer couldn't shake. She'd made dinner, grilled cheese and tomato soup, Maya's favorite comfort food, and they'd eaten together at the small kitchen table while watching a sitcom on Jennifer's laptop. Normal. They were doing normal things, maintaining the illusion that everything was fine. But Jennifer couldn't stop checking her phone, couldn't stop listening for unusual sounds in the hallway, couldn't stop thinking about Eleanor Patterson somewhere out there in the city, desperate and dangerous. At 8:30 p.m., she tucked Maya into bed, reading an extra chapter of the book they were working through together, a fantasy novel about a girl who discovered she had magic powers. Maya had always loved stories about ordinary people who turned out to be extraordinary. Tonight, Jennifer found herself wishing she had magic powers too, something that would let her protect her daughter from everything bad in the world. Mom? Maya's sleepy voice interrupted Jennifer's reading. Yeah, baby. Whatever's happening, we're going to be okay, right? Jennifer set the book down and smoothed Maya's hair back from her forehead. We're going to be okay, I promise. You can't promise that, Maya said with the brutal honesty of childhood. Dad promised he'd get better, and he didn't. The words hit Jennifer like a physical blow. She took a shaky breath, forcing back the tears that threatened to spill over. You're right. I can't promise that nothing bad will ever happen, but I can promise that I will do everything in my power to keep you safe. Everything, Maya. Do you understand? Maya nodded, her eyes already drifting closed. I love you, Mom. I love you too, baby. More than anything in the world. Jennifer sat beside Maya's bed until her daughter's breathing deepened into sleep. Then she quietly stood and moved to the doorway. She left the door cracked open. She needed to be able to hear if Maya called for her, and returned to the living room. 9 p.m. 2 hours until Eleanor Patterson's flight to Costa Rica. Not that she'd make it that far, according to the shadow. The FBI had flagged her passport. She'd be arrested at the airport, or possibly even before she got there. Jennifer's phone buzzed. Unknown number, but she knew who it was before she answered. Status report, the shadow said without preamble. Are you and Maya secure? We're home. Doors locked. Maya's asleep. Good. Eleanor Patterson left her house 20 minutes ago. She's not heading toward the airport. Jennifer's blood ran cold. Where is she going? We're not sure yet. My people are following her, but she's driving erratically, taking random turns. Either she's trying to lose a tail or she's working herself up to do something reckless. A pause. How well do you know the Patterson Estate's security system? The question caught Jennifer off guard. What? I. Not very well. I mean, I know the code to the alarm system because Mr. Patterson gave it to me so I could let myself in and out. Why? Because Eleanor just called her home security company and changed all the codes. Then she called her husband and told him she needed to run an errand, but that he should stay home, that someone would be coming by to discuss the foundation. The Shadow's voice had gone flat, analytical. She's separating him from any potential witnesses. She's planning something. Jennifer's heart hammered. You think she's going to hurt him? Her own husband? I think she's desperate and cornered and has 40 million reasons to make sure no one can testify against her. Richard Patterson knows more about the foundation's finances than anyone except Eleanor herself. If she's planning to run, he's a liability. Oh, God. Jennifer stood up and started pacing. You have to warn him. You have to. I already have people on the way to the Patterson estate. But Jennifer, I need you to focus. Did you touch anything in Eleanor's study besides the ledger? Anything that might have your fingerprints on it? Jennifer tried to remember. She'd been dusting, cleaning. I touched everything. That's my job. But I always wear gloves when I clean, cheap latex ones from the dollar store. Mr. Patterson prefers that I don't leave fingerprints on the furniture. Good. So there's no physical evidence tying you to the discovery of the ledger. What about the photos you took? Did you use your personal phone? Yes, the Techno. But I deleted them like you told me to. Deleted doesn't always mean gone. If Eleanor somehow gets access to your phone, she might be able to recover those images. The Shadow was quiet for a moment. I'm going to send someone to your apartment. His name is Jay. He'll take your phone and make sure those photos are permanently erased. Not just deleted, but completely unrecoverable. Will you let him in? Every instinct screamed at Jennifer to say no, to refuse to let another stranger into her apartment, especially with Maya asleep in the next room. But she also understood the logic. If Eleanor Patterson suspected Jennifer had the evidence, if she somehow got her hands on Jennifer's phone. How will I know it's really him? Jennifer asked. How do I know you're not? She stopped, unsure how to finish that sentence. How do I know you're not setting me up? How do I know I can trust you? Jay will knock 3 times, pause, then twice more. He'll show you a photo of himself with my sister. She'll be wearing a medical bracelet from St. Mercy's Hospital. That photo was taken 3 years ago, the night the hotel maid saved her life. The Shadow's voice softened. I'm asking you to trust me, Jennifer. I know that's difficult. But I haven't lied to you yet, and I'm not going to start now. Jennifer closed her eyes. Trust. That's what it all came down to. Did she trust this man she barely knew? This criminal who'd somehow become her protector? Okay, she said finally. 3 knocks, pause, 2 more, and the photo. He'll be there in 15 minutes. And Jennifer, thank you for trusting me. The line went dead. Jennifer checked on Maya again, still sleeping peacefully, then returned to the living room and waited. She kept the lights off, sitting in the darkness with only the glow of the streetlight filtering through her curtains. At 9:17 p.m., she heard footsteps on the stairs. Slow, measured footsteps that stopped outside her door. 3 knocks. Pause. 2 more knocks. Jennifer moved to the door and looked through the peephole. A young Korean man stood in the hallway, maybe mid-20s, dressed in dark clothing. He held up a phone, displaying a photo on the screen. Even through the distortion of the peephole, Jennifer could see it clearly. The young man in her hallway, a few years younger in the photo, standing beside a young woman who looked fragile and frightened. The woman wore a hospital bracelet and there were fading bruises on her arms. Jennifer unlocked the door and opened it just wide enough to speak. Jay? Ms. Amber. His English was accented but clear. Mr. Park sent me. May I come in? Jennifer stepped back, allowing him to enter. He moved with the same controlled grace as the Shadow. his eyes quickly scanning her apartment before settling on her. Your phone, please, he said, holding out his hand. Jennifer hesitated, then handed over her techno. Jay pulled a small device from his pocket, something that looked like a USB drive but more sophisticated, and connected it to her phone. He tapped the screen a few times, and Jennifer watched as lines of code began scrolling across the display. This will take about 5 minutes, Jay said. The program will locate and permanently erase the deleted photos, then overwrite that section of memory multiple times to ensure they can't be recovered. It will also check for any cloud backups or automatic syncing that might have copies elsewhere. I don't have cloud backup, Jennifer said. I can't afford the storage space. Jay nodded, his attention fixed on the phone. That's good. That makes this simpler. He glanced up at her. Mr. Park wanted me to assure you that I'm only erasing the photos you took of the ledger. Nothing else on your phone will be touched. They stood in awkward silence while the program did its work. Jennifer found herself studying this young man who worked for the Shadow. He couldn't be more than 25, with a lean build and intelligent eyes. What was his story? How did someone end up working for a mafia boss? Was it a choice? Or had circumstances forced his hand like they'd forced hers? The woman in the photo, Jennifer said quietly. The Shadow's sister. Is she okay now? Jay's expression softened slightly. Yes, she's safe. She lives in Seattle now, working as a nurse. Mr. Park made sure she got away from the situation that put her in that hospital. He met Jennifer's eyes. He protects the people who matter to him. And right now, you matter to him because you helped expose corruption he's been trying to fight for months. So you and your daughter will be protected. You have his word. His word. Jennifer couldn't keep the skepticism from her voice. The word of a criminal. The word of a man who has never broken a promise in the 15 years I've known him, Jay corrected. Mr. Park's reputation is built on his reliability. If he says he'll do something, it happens. If he says you're safe, you're safe. The phone beeped. Jay disconnected the device and handed the phone back to Jennifer. Done. The photos are permanently erased. Even the FBI's best forensic recovery tools wouldn't be able to find them now. Thank you, Jennifer said, taking the phone. Jay nodded and moved toward the door, then he paused. Ms. Amber, I don't know what Mr. Park has told you, but Eleanor Patterson is dangerous. More dangerous than you probably realize. Until she's in custody, you should... His phone buzzed. He pulled it out, read something on the screen, and his expression went hard. I have to go. Lock this door behind me. Don't open it for anyone except Mr. Park or Mrs. Chen, understand? What's happening? Jennifer demanded. What did that message say? But Jay was already out the door, moving fast down the hallway toward the stairs. Jennifer heard his footsteps pounding down the stairs, then the heavy door to the building slamming shut. Jennifer locked her door with shaking hands and immediately called the Shadow's number. He answered on the first ring. Jennifer, has Jay left? Yes, what's happening? He got a message and ran out of here like, Eleanor Patterson just drove past your building. The Shadow's voice was tight with controlled urgency. She slowed down, looked up at your windows, then kept driving. She's circling the block now. Jennifer's legs gave out and she sank onto her couch. She knows, oh God, she knows it was me. We don't know that for certain, but she's clearly suspicious. Jennifer heard voices in the background on the Shadow's end, rapid Korean that she couldn't quite make out. Then his voice came back, clear and commanding. Listen to me very carefully. I need you to wake Maya and get her dressed. Pack a bag, just essentials. Enough for a few days. You're leaving your apartment. Leaving, but you said... I said you'd be safe and you will be, but not here. Eleanor is escalating faster than I anticipated. I'm not taking any chances with your safety or Maya's. My people will be at your building in 5 minutes. Mrs. Chen will bring you downstairs and put you in a car. You'll be taken to a safe location until Eleanor is in custody. Jennifer's mind was spinning. Wake Maya, pack a bag, leave their apartment. Everything was moving too fast. Where are you taking us? Somewhere Eleanor Patterson will never find you. Somewhere even the FBI doesn't know about. You'll be safe there, I promise. A pause. Jennifer, I know this is frightening. I know you don't want to uproot Maya in the middle of the night. but I need you to trust me one more time. Can you do that? Jennifer thought about Eleanor Patterson circling her building, thought about the desperate gleam that must be in the woman's eyes right now, thought about what a cornered animal might do. Yes, she whispered. I trust you. Good. Now move. 5 minutes. Jennifer rushed to Maya's room and flicked on the light. Her daughter stirred, blinking sleepily. Mom, what's wrong? We need to go, baby, right now. I need you to get dressed quickly. Maya sat up, suddenly more alert. Go where? What's happening? Remember how I said there was grown-up stuff happening, but it would be over soon? Jennifer pulled out a small backpack and started stuffing in clothes. Well, we need to go somewhere safe for a little while, just until tomorrow. It's going to be okay, but I need you to trust me and move fast. Can you do that? To her credit, Maya didn't argue or ask more questions. She climbed out of bed and started pulling on jeans and a sweatshirt. Should I bring my tablet? Yes, and your toothbrush, and your stuffed rabbit. Anything else you need, I'll get for you later. Jennifer moved to her own room and grabbed a change of clothes, her medications, her wallet. What else? What did they need for a few days in hiding? Her laptop. The photo albums from before Marcus died. Maya's school backpack. She'd need to do homework, even in a safe house. Jennifer's hands moved automatically, packing essentials while her mind raced ahead to all the terrible possibilities. A knock on the door. 3 times. Pause. Twice more. Jennifer grabbed both bags in Maya's hand and moved to the door. Through the peephole, she saw Mrs. Chen standing in the hallway, no longer looking like a sweet elderly neighbor. Her expression was serious, almost stern, and she held a phone to her ear. Jennifer opened the door. Come, Mrs. Chen said simply. Car's waiting. We go now. They followed Mrs. Chen down the stairs, Maya's hand gripping Jennifer's tightly. At the bottom, Mrs. Chen cracked open the door to the street and peered out, then nodded and pushed it fully open. A black sedan sat at the curb, engine running. The passenger door opened and Jay stepped out. Quickly, please. Jennifer and Maya climbed into the back seat. Mrs. Chen got in the front. The car pulled away from the curb before Jennifer even had her seatbelt fastened. Mom, I'm scared, Maya whispered. Jennifer pulled her daughter close. I know, baby. But these are good people. They're helping us. Everything's going to be okay. She hoped that was true. She hoped she hadn't just made the biggest mistake of her life by trusting a Korean mafia boss with her daughter's safety. The car wove through city streets, taking random turns that Jennifer couldn't follow. She'd lived in the city for 12 years and thought she knew it well, but Jay was driving through neighborhoods she'd never seen, down streets that didn't appear on any map she knew. After about 20 minutes, they pulled into an underground parking garage. Jay parked in a reserved spot and turned off the engine. We're here, he said. This building is owned by Mr. Park through several shell corporations. It's completely secure. No one except his most trusted people know about it. They took an elevator up to the 5th floor. The hallway was clean and modern, nothing like Jennifer's rundown apartment building. Jay led them to a door at the end of the hall and unlocked it with a keycard. The apartment inside was modest but comfortable, a 2-bedroom unit with clean furniture, a well-equipped kitchen, and large windows that looked out over the city. Nothing fancy, but worlds better than what Jennifer and Maya had left behind. You'll be safe here, Mrs. Chen said, her English suddenly much better than the broken accent she usually used. Food in the kitchen, clean linens in the bedrooms, everything you need. You speak perfect English, Jennifer said, too stunned by the revelation to be anything but blunt. Mrs. Chen smiled. Better to let people underestimate you. You learn more that way. She patted Jennifer's arm. Don't worry, dear. You and Maya will be fine. Mr. Park takes care of his people. After Mrs. Chen and Jay left, Jennifer stood in the middle of the safe house and tried to process everything that had happened in the past 18 hours. She'd accidentally texted a mafia boss. He'd shown up at her door at dawn. Now she and her daughter were in hiding, protected by criminals, waiting for the FBI to arrest a woman who'd stolen from dying children. Her life had become completely unrecognizable. Mom? Maya stood in the doorway of one of the bedrooms. looking small and lost. I don't like this. I want to go home. Jennifer went to her daughter and pulled her into a tight embrace. I know, baby. I know this is scary and confusing, but we can't go home right now. Just for tonight and tomorrow, okay? Then everything will be back to normal. Will it? Maya pulled back and looked up at Jennifer with those two perceptive eyes. Because it feels like everything's changed, like nothing will ever be normal again. Jennifer wanted to argue, to reassure her daughter that this was just a temporary disruption. But Maya deserved honesty, even when the truth was uncomfortable. Some things have changed, Jennifer admitted. But the important things, you and me, our love for each other, our family, those things will never change. And yes, maybe our lives will be different after this. Maybe better. Maybe just different. But we'll face it together, just like we always have. Okay? Maya nodded slowly, then moved to the couch and curled up in the corner. Can we watch a movie or something? I don't think I can sleep. Jennifer sat beside her and pulled up a streaming service on her phone. They settled on an animated film Maya had seen a dozen times before, something familiar and comforting. As the opening credits rolled, Jennifer felt her phone buzz with a message. The Shadow. You're secure. Eleanor Patterson just tried to access your building. My people turned her away. She's becoming increasingly erratic. FBI has moved up the timeline. They'll take her into custody within the next 2 hours. Jennifer, thank you for protecting us. The Shadow. That's what I promised, isn't it? Get some rest. I'll contact you in the morning after the arrest. Jennifer set her phone down and tried to focus on the movie, but her mind kept returning to Eleanor Patterson somewhere out there in the night, desperate and dangerous. She thought about Richard Patterson, alone in his mansion, unaware that his wife was about to be arrested. She thought about all the families the Patterson Foundation had helped, families like hers, with sick loved ones and mounting bills and dwindling hope. And she thought about the Shadow, this enigmatic criminal who'd somehow become her protector. What kind of man was he, really? What drove him to help a cleaning lady he barely knew? What code of ethics allowed him to run criminal operations while simultaneously fighting corruption and protecting the vulnerable? She didn't have answers to any of those questions. All she knew was that she'd stumbled into his world through one mistaken text message, and nothing would ever be quite the same. On the couch beside her, Maya had fallen asleep despite her earlier protests, her head resting on Jennifer's shoulder. Jennifer carefully adjusted her position to make Maya more comfortable, then allowed herself to close her eyes. Just for a moment, just to rest. She jolted awake to the sound of her phone ringing. Disoriented, Jennifer fumbled for it, trying not to disturb Maya. The screen showed 11:47 p.m. She'd been asleep for over an hour. Unknown number. Jennifer answered with a whispered, "Hello?" "Ms. Amber, this is Special Agent Rodriguez with the FBI." A woman's voice, calm and professional. "I apologize for the late hour, but I need to speak with you about Eleanor Patterson and the Patterson Foundation." Jennifer's heart stopped. "How did you get this number?" "That's not important right now. What is important is that Eleanor Patterson was taken into custody 45 minutes ago. She's been charged with multiple counts of embezzlement, money laundering, and conspiracy. During her arrest, she claimed that you, Jennifer Amber, had broken into her home and stolen documents from her private study." "That's not true," Jennifer said, her voice shaking. "I'm a cleaning lady. I was hired to clean their house. I didn't break in. I didn't steal anything." "I believe you, Ms. Amber. Eleanor Patterson is clearly attempting to deflect blame and cast suspicion elsewhere. However, I do need to ask you some questions, and I'd prefer to do it in person. Can you tell me where you are?" Every instinct Jennifer had screamed danger. Something was wrong. The FBI wouldn't call her at midnight. They wouldn't ask where she was over the phone. This didn't feel right. "I'll come to your office tomorrow," Jennifer said carefully. "During normal business hours. If you're really FBI, you'll have an office I can visit, right?" A pause on the other end of the line. Then, "Ms. Amber, I really do need to speak with you tonight. This is a time-sensitive matter. If you could just tell me—" Jennifer hung up. Her hands shook as she immediately called the Shadow's number. He answered instantly. What's wrong? Someone just called claiming to be FBI. They asked where I was, but something felt off. Did you tell them anything? No, I hung up and called you. Good, that wasn't the FBI, Jennifer. That was someone working for Eleanor Patterson trying to locate you. The Shadow's voice was hard. The FBI did arrest Eleanor about an hour ago, but they don't have your name and they have no reason to contact you, someone. Probably a corrupt cop or a private investigator on Eleanor's payroll is trying to find you. Jennifer's blood ran cold. She looked over at Maya, still sleeping peacefully on the couch, and felt a fierce surge of protective rage. I'm going to kill her, Jennifer whispered. If she comes anywhere near my daughter, I'm going to. You're not going to do anything except stay exactly where you are, the Shadow interrupted. Eleanor is in federal custody. She can't physically hurt you, but she clearly has resources outside that she's trying to leverage. I'm increasing security on your location. No one, and I mean no one, will get through to you. Jennifer took a shaky breath. How long do we have to stay here? Just until the arraignment tomorrow afternoon. Once Eleanor is formally charged and remanded without bail, which she will be, given the flight risk, you'll be safe to return to your normal life. 12 more hours, Jennifer. You can do 12 more hours. Okay, Jennifer whispered. Okay. Try to rest. I have people watching the building, watching the elevators, watching every approach. You're safe. After he hung up, Jennifer sat in the darkness of the safe house and stared out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, Eleanor Patterson sat in a jail cell, probably still in her designer clothes, probably still trying to manipulate her way out of consequences. And here Jennifer was, hiding with her daughter, protected by a criminal because she'd tried to do the right thing. The irony wasn't lost on her. She carefully lifted Maya and carried her to one of the bedrooms, tucking her daughter into the unfamiliar bed. Then Jennifer lay down beside her, fully clothed, and stared at the ceiling. 12 more hours. Then this nightmare would be over. She hoped. Morning came too slowly and too fast at the same time. Jennifer had drifted in and out of fitful sleep, jerking awake at every unfamiliar sound in the safe house. Each time she would check on Maya, still sleeping peacefully, thank God, and then lie back down and will herself to rest. But true sleep never came. Her mind was too wired, too full of fear and adrenaline, and the surreal awareness that her entire life had been upended in less than 24 hours. At 6:15 a.m., she gave up on sleep entirely and padded quietly to the kitchen. The refrigerator was stocked with basics: eggs, milk, bread, fresh fruit. There was coffee in the cupboard, real coffee, not the cheap instant stuff she usually bought. Jennifer made a pot and stood by the window while it brewed, watching the city wake up below. From this height, 5 stories up in a building she'd never known existed, the world looked different, cleaner, more organized. The morning commuters moved through the streets like pieces on a game board, everyone following their programmed routes, unaware of the chaos and danger that lurked just beneath the surface of ordinary life. Jennifer wondered if she'd ever be able to see the city the same way again, if she'd ever be able to go back to her 3 jobs and her tiny apartment and her invisible existence, or if everything had fundamentally shifted in ways she couldn't yet understand. Her phone buzzed. The Shadow. Eleanor Patterson's arraignment is at 2 p.m. The prosecutor is pushing for remand without bail. It should be granted. She's an obvious flight risk given last night's airport ticket and the offshore accounts. Once that's done, you'll be safe to return home. Jennifer typed back. What about her husband? Does he know what she did? Richard Patterson was informed last night. He's cooperating fully with the investigation and has retained his own legal counsel. He's a victim in this, Jennifer. Don't let guilt consume you. But guilt did consume her. Jennifer thought about Richard Patterson's kind, absent-minded smile, the way he'd always thanked her for her work, the photos of his dead son scattered throughout that mansion. The man's entire life had imploded because Jennifer had found that ledger. No, because Eleanor had stolen from dying children. Jennifer had to keep reminding herself of that. She hadn't caused this. She'd only brought it to light. Another message from the Shadow. How is Maya? Jennifer glanced toward the bedroom where her daughter still slept. still asleep. She's scared but holding up. She's lucky to have you as a mother. Not many people would have the courage to do what you did. Jennifer didn't feel courageous. She felt terrified and exhausted and completely out of her depth. But she appreciated the sentiment, even from a criminal who probably said similar things to manipulate people all the time. Except, did she really believe that? Did she really think the shadow was manipulating her? Everything he'd done so far, protecting them, hiding them, making sure Maya was safe, suggested genuine concern, or at least genuine interest in keeping his promises. When can we go home? Jennifer typed. After the arraignment. I'll have someone drive you back to your apartment around 4 p.m. And, Jennifer, the hospital wants to meet with you tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Don't forget. Right. The mysterious position change at St. Mercy's. With everything else happening, Jennifer had almost forgotten about that. She wondered what kind of job they would offer her. Something better than mopping floors and emptying bedpans, hopefully. Though at this point, she'd probably be grateful for anything that didn't involve running from desperate criminals. She poured herself coffee and settled on the couch, cradling the warm mug in her hands. The morning news played softly on the TV. She'd turned it on, hoping for information about Eleanor Patterson's arrest, but so far there was nothing. Maybe the story wouldn't break until after the arraignment. Maybe the FBI wanted to keep it quiet until everything was official. At 7:30 a.m., Maya emerged from the bedroom, her hair standing up in all directions, her expression confused. Mom, where are we? Safe house, remember? We had to leave our apartment last night. Maya rubbed her eyes and looked around the unfamiliar space. Right, the grown-up stuff. She moved to the couch and curled up next to Jennifer. Is it over yet? Almost, baby. Just a few more hours, then we can go home. What happens then? Do we just go back to normal? Do you still have to work all those jobs? Jennifer stroked her daughter's hair, thinking about the $50,000 in her bank account. Money that could let her quit at least one job. Money that could give them breathing room, space to live instead of just survive. I don't know yet, Jennifer admitted. But things are going to change, I think. Hopefully for the better. They made breakfast together, scrambled eggs and toast, and ate while watching cartoons on Jennifer's phone. Normal morning things, except nothing about this morning was normal. They were eating in a safe house owned by a Korean Mafia boss, hiding from a desperate woman who'd tried to find them last night, waiting for an arraignment that would determine when they could return to their life. At 10:01 a.m., Jennifer's phone rang, unknown number again. She let it go to voicemail, her heart racing. But when she checked the message, it was actually from the FBI, a legitimate agent who left his name, badge number, and office phone number, asking her to call back at her convenience to answer some questions about her employment with the Pattersons. Jennifer showed the message to the shadow via text. He confirmed it was legitimate and told her she could call back from the safe house. The number couldn't be traced to her current location. She made the call while Maya was in the bathroom, her hands shaking slightly as she explained to Special Agent Henderson that yes, she'd worked for the Pattersons for 3 years. No, she'd never noticed anything unusual about their finances. And no, she had no knowledge of any illegal activities. It was technically true. She hadn't known about Eleanor's crimes until the night she'd found that ledger. Everything else, the photos she'd taken, the evidence she'd gathered, she kept to herself. The FBI had their anonymous tip. They had their evidence. They didn't need to know about Jennifer's involvement. One last question, Ms. Amber, Agent Henderson said. Eleanor Patterson claims you broke into her private study and stole confidential documents. Any truth to that accusation? None whatsoever, Jennifer said firmly. I was hired to clean their house. I had legitimate access. I never stole anything. That's what I thought. Mrs. Patterson is grasping at straws, trying to deflect blame. Thank you for your cooperation, Ms. Amber. We'll be in touch if we need anything else. After she hung up, Jennifer felt a weight lift slightly from her shoulders. The FBI believed her. They weren't coming after her. She was just a cleaning lady who'd happened to work for criminals, an innocent bystander caught in the fallout, which was almost true if you didn't count the part where she'd photographed evidence and sent it to a mafia boss. At 1 p.m., the shadow called instead of texting. The arraignment starts in 1 hour, he said without preamble. I have someone inside the courthouse who'll text me updates. Eleanor's attorney is going to argue for bail, but it won't work. The prosecutor has everything: the offshore accounts, the flight ticket, the evidence of money laundering. She's going to be remanded. And then we're safe? Jennifer asked. And then you're safe. Eleanor will be transferred to a federal detention facility to await trial. Even if she makes bail, which she won't, she'll be under house arrest with an ankle monitor. She won't be able to come anywhere near you. What about her husband? What about the foundation? Richard Patterson has already announced he's stepping down as director temporarily and bringing in an independent auditor to review all the foundation's finances. He's trying to salvage what he can to restore public trust. The man is devastated, Jennifer, but he's handling it with grace. Jennifer closed her eyes, guilt twisting in her stomach again. I destroyed his life. No, his wife destroyed his life. You just exposed the destruction that was already there. The shadow's voice softened. Listen to me, Jennifer. You did nothing wrong. You found evidence of a crime and you reported it. Accidentally, yes, but reported it nonetheless. Everything that's happening now is the consequence of Eleanor Patterson's choices, not yours. It doesn't feel that way. I know, but feelings aren't always facts. A pause. I'll contact you after the arraignment. Try to rest. This will all be over soon. The next hour crawled by with excruciating slowness. Jennifer couldn't focus on anything, not TV, not her phone, not even Maya's attempts at conversation. She just sat on the couch watching the clock, waiting for news. At 2:47 p.m., her phone buzzed with a message from the shadow. It's done. Remanded without bail. She's being transferred to federal detention now. Jennifer read the message 3 times, trying to make herself believe it. Eleanor Patterson was in custody, locked up, unable to hurt them. It was over. She burst into tears, sudden, overwhelming tears that came from somewhere deep inside where she'd been holding all the fear and stress and terror of the past 24 hours. Maya rushed to her side, alarmed. Mom! Mom, what's wrong? Why are you crying? I'm okay, Jennifer sobbed, pulling her daughter close. I'm okay, baby. These are happy tears. Everything's going to be okay now. They held each other while Jennifer cried out all the fear she'd been carrying. Relief flooded through her in waves, leaving her shaking and exhausted, but somehow lighter than she'd felt in months. Maybe years. It was over. The nightmare was over. At 4 p.m., Jay arrived to drive them home. The ride back to their apartment felt surreal, like returning from another world. Jennifer recognized the streets, the buildings, the familiar landmarks of her neighborhood. But everything looked different now. Or maybe she was different. Maybe she'd changed in fundamental ways that she was only beginning to understand. Jay pulled up to their building and helped carry their bags upstairs. Mr. Park wanted me to tell you that security will remain in place for the next week, he said as they reached Jennifer's apartment door. Just as a precaution, Mrs. Chen will be here and we'll have people watching the building, but you should be able to return to your normal routine. Normal routine? Jennifer almost laughed. What was normal anymore? Thank you, she said instead. Thank you for everything. Jay nodded and headed back down the stairs. Jennifer unlocked her door and stepped inside her apartment, her cramped, dingy, threadbare apartment that had never looked so beautiful. Home, they were home. Maya immediately ran to her room to check that everything was still there, that nothing had changed in their absence. Jennifer stood in the living room and tried to process everything that had happened. One accidental text message. That's all it had taken to turn her entire world upside down. Her phone buzzed. The shadow. You're home safely? Yes. Thank you for everything, for protecting us, for keeping your promises. I always keep my promises, Jennifer. Remember that. A pause and then another message. One more thing. Check your email. Jennifer opened her email app and found a message from St. Mercy's Hospital Human Resources Department. Dear Ms. Amber, we are pleased to offer you the position of Patient Care Coordinator in our Oncology Department, effective immediately. This is a full-time salaried position with benefits, starting at $52,000 per year. Please come to our office tomorrow at 8 a.m. to discuss the details and complete the necessary paperwork. We look forward to having you join our care team in this new capacity. Jennifer read the email 3 times, her hands shaking. Patient care coordinator. A real job with a salary and benefits. More than she'd made working 3 jobs combined. Enough to support Maya comfortably, to catch up on bills, to maybe even start saving for the future. She texted the shadow. The hospital job. Did you arrange this? I arranged the donation that created the position. The hospital administration chose you based on your work ethic, your reliability, and your personal understanding of what cancer patients and their families go through. You earned this, Jennifer. Don't let anyone, including yourself, tell you otherwise. Jennifer sank onto her couch, overwhelmed. In the span of 24 hours, she'd gone from invisible cleaning lady working 3 jobs to patient care coordinator with a real salary. She'd gone from living paycheck to paycheck to having $50,000 in her bank account. She'd gone from anonymous and overlooked to protected by one of the most powerful men in the city. It was too much. All of it was too much. Mom? Maya appeared in the living room doorway. Can we order pizza for dinner? I know we don't usually, but today feels like a pizza day. Jennifer looked at her daughter, her beautiful, brave, resilient daughter who'd handled this entire nightmare with more grace than Jennifer had, and felt her heart swell with love so fierce it hurt. Yeah, baby, she said, smiling through fresh tears. Today definitely feels like a pizza day. Extra cheese? Extra cheese, Maya confirmed, grinning. They ordered pizza. Not the cheap kind from the dollar menu, but real pizza from the Italian place Maya loved, but they could never afford. They ate it while watching a movie, curled up together on the couch, and for the first time in 2 years, Jennifer felt something she'd almost forgotten. Hope. Hope that their life might actually get better. Hope that they might be okay. Hope that the future might hold something more than endless work and grinding poverty and constant fear. At 9 p.m., after Maya had gone to bed, Jennifer stood at her window and looked out at the city. Somewhere out there, Eleanor Patterson sat in a jail cell, her perfect life in ruins. Somewhere else, Richard Patterson was dealing with the betrayal and the scandal and the destruction of everything he'd built. And somewhere, maybe close, maybe far, the Shadow was conducting whatever business Korean Mafia bosses conducted, pulling strings and moving pieces and shaping the world according to his own mysterious code. Jennifer thought about calling him, about thanking him one more time, about asking him why he'd really helped her, but she didn't. Some questions were better left unasked. Some debts were better left unacknowledged. Instead, she pulled out the card he'd given her, the one with just a phone number, no name. She looked at it for a long moment, then carefully tucked it into her wallet next to her driver's license. Just in case. Just in case she or Maya ever needed help again. Her phone buzzed one last time. The Shadow. Sleep well, Jennifer Amber. You survived something most people couldn't have. Be proud of that. Jennifer typed back, thank you for everything. You're welcome. And Jennifer, the job at the hospital, make the most of it. Help people the way you wished someone could have helped you when Marcus was sick. Turn your pain into purpose. She stared at that message for a long time. Turn your pain into purpose. It was exactly what she needed to hear, exactly the permission she needed to move forward instead of looking back. I will, she typed. I promise. The conversation ended there. Jennifer set her phone down and moved to Maya's room, where her daughter slept peacefully in her own bed, in their own apartment, safe and sound. She stood in the doorway and watched Maya breathe, committing this moment to memory, the moment when everything changed, when their life pivoted from survival to something that might actually resemble living. Tomorrow, she would go to the hospital and accept the new job. She would start the process of building a better life for herself and Maya. She would figure out how to be a patient care coordinator instead of just a cleaning lady. She would learn how to help families going through what she'd gone through with Marcus. But tonight, she would just stand here and watch her daughter sleep and be grateful that they'd survived. Grateful that one mistaken text message had somehow led to protection and opportunity instead of destruction. Grateful that in a world full of Eleanor Pattersons, people who stole and lied and betrayed, there were also people like the Shadow. Complicated people. Dangerous people. but people who kept their promises and protected the vulnerable and remembered that some debts could never truly be repaid, only paid forward. Jennifer finally went to her own room and climbed into bed. She was asleep within minutes, exhausted down to her bones, but finally, at peace. The nightmare was over. The next chapter of her life was about to begin. At 6 a.m. the next morning, Jennifer woke to her alarm and for the first time in years didn't immediately feel the crushing weight of exhaustion and dread. Yes, she was tired, but it was a different kind of tired. The tired of someone who'd survived something difficult and come out the other side, not the bone-deep weariness of someone slowly drowning. She showered and dressed carefully, choosing her best interview outfit. Black slacks and a blue blouse she'd bought at a thrift store, but that looked professional enough. She made breakfast for Maya and got her daughter ready for school, moving through the familiar routine with a lightness she hadn't felt in months. Mrs. Chen appeared at their door at 7:15, right on schedule. "I walk Maya to bus stop today," she said, her English back to its usual broken cadence. "You go to hospital. Big day, yes?" "Yes," Jennifer agreed, smiling. Big day. She hugged Maya goodbye, maybe holding on a little longer than usual, and whispered, "I love you, baby. Have a good day at school." "Love you too, Mom. Good luck with your new job." Jennifer watched them go, then grabbed her purse and headed downstairs to her car. The Honda Civic started with its usual concerning noises, but Jennifer barely noticed. Her mind was already at the hospital, imagining what this new position might entail, wondering if she was really qualified for it, hoping she wouldn't let anyone down. The drive to St. Mercy's took 20 minutes. Jennifer had made this drive hundreds of times before, usually arriving before dawn to start her cleaning shift. But this time was different. This time she was arriving as Jennifer Amber, patient care coordinator, not Jennifer Amber, invisible janitor. She parked in the employee lot and walked through the main entrance instead of the service entrance she usually used. The lobby was bustling with morning activity. Doctors and nurses heading to their shifts, patients checking in, families clutching coffee cups in worry. Jennifer had always seen this space through the lens of someone who cleaned it. Now she tried to see it through the lens of someone who worked here, who helped people, who mattered. Jennifer Amber, a woman in a professional pantsuit, approached her, hand extended. "I'm Carol Martinez, Director of Human Resources. We spoke on the phone yesterday." "Yes, hello." Jennifer shook her hand, trying to project confidence she didn't entirely feel. "Come with me. We have some paperwork to complete, and then I'll introduce you to Dr. Richardson, who heads our oncology department. He's eager to meet you." They took the elevator to the third floor and entered a conference room where a stack of papers waited on the table. As Carol walked Jennifer through employment forms and benefits enrollment and direct deposit authorization, Jennifer kept expecting someone to burst in and tell her this was all a mistake, that they'd meant to offer this job to someone else, someone more qualified. But no one burst in. Carol just kept smiling and explaining things and acting like Jennifer belonged here, like this was exactly where she was supposed to be. After 30 minutes of paperwork, Carol led Jennifer down another hallway to the oncology department. They passed through double doors into a space that was both familiar and foreign. Jennifer had cleaned these halls many times, but always after hours, when the lights were dimmed and the patients were sleeping. Now, in the full light of morning, she saw what this place really was: a space of hope and despair, fighting and surrendering, life and death all tangled together. "Dr. Richardson's office is just ahead," Carol said, then paused and turned to face Jennifer. "Can I tell you something?" "Off the record?" "Of course." When the hospital received that anonymous donation, $5 million for the oncology wing, it came with one condition: that we create a patient care coordinator position and that we offer it to someone who had personal experience with cancer, who understood what families go through. The board reviewed our staff, and your name came up immediately. Everyone who's ever worked with you talked about your work ethic, your compassion, your reliability. You were the unanimous choice, Jennifer. So don't doubt yourself. You belong here. Jennifer's throat tightened with emotion. "Thank you. That means more than you know." Carol knocked on a door marked, "Dr. James Richardson, Deputy Your Head." A voice called, "Come in." Dr. Richardson was in his late 50s, with graying hair and kind eyes behind wire rimmed glasses. He stood when they entered and came around his desk to shake Jennifer's hand. Ms. Amber, I'm so glad to finally meet you properly. I understand you've been working at St. Mercy's for 2 years? Yes, sir. Cleaning and janitorial services. And I understand you lost your husband to pancreatic cancer? The familiar pain flashed through Jennifer's chest, but duller now, more bearable. 2 years ago, the Tommy Patterson Foundation helped us cover some of the medical costs. Dr. Richardson's expression grew somber. Yes, I heard about Eleanor Patterson's arrest yesterday. Terrible business. But it makes what you'll be doing here even more important. He gestured for Jennifer to sit, and he returned to his chair behind the desk. The patient care coordinator position is new, he explained. Essentially, you'll be the bridge between our medical staff and our patients' families. You'll help families navigate the system, understanding treatment options, dealing with insurance, finding financial assistance, connecting with support services. You'll attend some care team meetings, advocate for patients' needs, and generally make sure that families don't feel lost or alone in the process. Jennifer listened, her heart beating faster with every word. This was exactly the kind of help she'd needed when Marcus was sick. The kind of help that might have made those final months a little less overwhelming, a little less terrifying. I know it sounds like a lot, Dr. Richardson continued, and there will be a learning curve. But Carol tells me you're a quick study. And more importantly, you have the empathy and understanding that can't be taught. You've been where our families are. You know what they need because you needed it yourself. I want to help, Jennifer said, her voice stronger than she expected. I want to make sure other families don't feel as alone as I felt. Dr. Richardson smiled. That's exactly why you're perfect for this position. When can you start? Whenever you need me. How about Monday? That gives you a few days to tie up loose ends with your other jobs and mentally prepare. We'll start you with a week of training, shadowing our current social worker and getting to know our systems. Then we'll ease you into the full role. They talked for another 30 minutes about logistics and expectations and the specifics of the position. By the time Jennifer left, Dr. Richardson's office, her head was spinning with information, but her heart felt lighter than it had in years. She was going to help people. She was going to turn her pain into purpose, just like the shadow had said. She was going to make sure that Marcus's death meant something, that the suffering they'd endured could somehow help ease the suffering of others. As Jennifer walked back through the hospital toward the parking lot, she passed by the ICU, the same hallway where she'd helped the shadow find his way weeks ago. She paused, remembering that moment. If she hadn't helped him that day, if she hadn't been kind to a stranger, would any of this have happened? It was impossible to say. But Jennifer was beginning to understand that life wasn't a series of random events. It was a web of connections and choices and moments that seemed small, but rippled outward in ways you could never predict. She'd helped a stranger find the ICU. He'd given her his card. She'd accidentally texted him about a crime. He'd protected her and her daughter and given them a future. And now she was going to spend her days helping families navigate one of the hardest experiences life could throw at them. It all connected. It all mattered. Jennifer drove home with the radio playing and the windows down, letting the autumn air rush through the car. When she pulled up to her building, she saw Mrs. Chen sitting on the front steps, enjoying the morning sun. Jennifer got out of the car and approached her neighbor, her protector as it turned out. Mrs. Chen, can I ask you something? Of course. Oh, dear. How long have you been watching over us before all this happened, I mean? Were you keeping an eye on us this whole time? Mrs. Chen smiled. Mr. Park asked me to look out for people in building. Make sure everyone's safe, everyone okay. When you move in 2 years ago with little Maya after your husband die, I see you working so hard. I tell Mr. Park, this woman, she need help. He say, just watch her. If she need help, real help, then we help. But you never ask. You just keep working, keep surviving, very strong. Jennifer felt tears prickling at her eyes. I didn't know. Is okay. You know now. Mrs. Chen patted Jennifer's hand. Mr. Park, he take care of his people. You his people now. So is Maya. So, you safe? You always safe. Understand? Jennifer nodded, too emotional to speak. Good. Now go inside? Rest. Big changes coming. You need strength for new job, new life. Mrs. Chen stood up with a grunt and shuffled toward the building entrance. Oh, and Jennifer, I'm very proud of you. You good person. Good mother. World need more people like you. Jennifer watched Mrs. Chen disappear into the building, then stood on the sidewalk for another moment, letting it all sink in. She'd stumbled into the orbit of a Korean mafia boss, discovered high society corruption, been protected by criminals, and been offered a job that could change her and Maya's life. And through it all, she'd somehow managed to maintain her integrity, to keep being the person Marcus had loved, the mother Maya deserved. She pulled out her phone and looked at the messages from the shadow. There were dozens of them now, a record of their strange alliance. She scrolled to the last one. Turn your pain into purpose. Jennifer opened a new message and typed, I start my new job on Monday. Thank you for making this possible. For everything. She waited, but no response came. Maybe the shadow was busy with his own complicated life. Maybe he'd moved on to his next project, his next debt to repay. Or maybe he was just giving her space to start her new chapter without his shadow hanging over it. Either way, Jennifer knew she'd probably never fully understand why he'd helped her. But she was done questioning it. Some gifts you just accepted with grace. She went inside her apartment and looked around at the space that had felt so cramped and dingy just days ago. It looked different now, brighter somehow, full of possibility instead of limitations. Her phone buzzed. Finally, a response from the shadow. You're going to do great things, Jennifer Amber. I'm certain of it. And if you or Maya ever need anything, anything at all, you know how to reach me. I do, Jennifer typed back. And thank you doesn't seem like enough, but thank you for seeing me when I was invisible, for keeping your promises, for being complicated. She could almost hear his laugh in the response. Complicated. I'll take that as a compliment. It was meant as one. Then I accept it with gratitude. Good luck on Monday. And Jennifer, don't forget, you didn't need me to rescue you. You rescued yourself. I just opened a few doors. You're the one who had the courage to walk through them. Jennifer read that message 3 times, letting it sink in. He was right. She'd found the ledger. She'd taken the photos. She'd reached out for help, even if accidentally. She'd protected Maya, cooperated with the FBI, survived Eleanor Patterson's attempts to silence her. She'd done all of that. The shadow had helped, yes, but she'd saved herself. The realization filled her with a strength she hadn't known she possessed. Thank you for the reminder, she typed. I needed to hear that. I know, that's why I said it. Now go live your life, Jennifer. Make Marcus proud, make Maya proud, make yourself proud. The conversation ended there. Jennifer set her phone down and moved to her window, looking out at the city that had become her home. Somewhere out there, life was continuing as normal. People going to work, running errands, living their ordinary lives. They had no idea that Jennifer Amber's world had been turned upside down and set right again in the span of 3 days. But that was okay. She didn't need them to know. She just needed to move forward, to build the life she and Maya deserved, to turn her pain into purpose. Monday would be the first day of her new job, the first day of her new life. But today she would pick up Maya from school early, and they would go out for ice cream, and she would tell her daughter that everything was going to be okay. Better than okay. That their life was about to change in ways they'd never imagined. And for the first time in 2 years, Jennifer would believe it. 3 months later. Jennifer stood in the oncology department's family consultation room, reviewing her notes for the afternoon's care conference. Outside the window, January snow fell softly over the city, transforming the gray urban landscape into something almost beautiful. 3 months. It had been 3 months since that night she'd accidentally texted the shadow, and sometimes it felt like it had happened to a different person in a different lifetime. Her life had changed in ways she was still processing. The job at St. Mercy's had been challenging at first, learning medical terminology, understanding insurance protocols, navigating the complex web of hospital bureaucracy. But Dr. Richardson had been right. Her personal experience with cancer gave her an empathy and understanding that couldn't be taught. When she sat with families and told them she understood what they were going through, they believed her because it was true. She'd been where they were. She knew the fear, the exhaustion, the desperate hope that maybe this treatment would work, that maybe there would be a miracle. Jennifer had helped 12 families in 3 months. 12 families who were navigating the same nightmare she'd endured with Marcus. She'd helped them find financial assistance, connected them with support groups, advocated for their needs with the medical staff, and, most importantly, she'd simply been there. A steady presence who understood, who cared, who wouldn't let them feel alone. It was the most meaningful work she'd ever done. Jennifer? A nurse poked her head into the consultation room. The Kawasaki family is here for their 4 o'clock. Jennifer gathered her files and headed to the meeting room where the Kawasaki's waited. A young couple with a 7-year-old daughter who'd been diagnosed with leukemia 6 weeks ago. Jennifer had been working with them since the diagnosis, helping them understand their options, navigate their insurance, and find temporary housing near the hospital during treatment. Mrs. Kawasaki's eyes were red from crying, but she managed a small smile when Jennifer entered. "Thank you for meeting with us again. I know you're busy." "Never too busy for you," Jennifer said, settling into the chair across from them. "How's Yumi doing today?" "She's resting. The last round of chemo was rough." Mr. Kawasaki's voice was tight with worry. "The doctors say she's responding well, but seeing her so sick—" He trailed off, and Jennifer reached across the table to squeeze his hand. "I know, it's the hardest thing in the world, watching someone you love suffer. But Yumi is strong, and the doctors here are excellent. You're doing everything right." They talked for 30 minutes about treatment schedules, side effect management, and the financial assistance programs Jennifer had enrolled them in. By the time the meeting ended, the Kawasaki's looked less overwhelmed, more hopeful. It was a small victory, but Jennifer had learned that small victories were what kept families going through these impossible times. As she walked them out, Mrs. Kawasaki hugged her tightly. "Thank you, Jennifer, for everything, for caring." "Of course," Jennifer said, her throat tight with emotion. "That's what I'm here for." After they left, Jennifer returned to her office. A small space, barely larger than a closet, but it was hers. She had a desk, a computer, a nameplate that read, "Jennifer Amber, Patient Care Coordinator." Every time she saw that nameplate, she felt a flutter of pride and disbelief that this was actually her life now. Her phone buzzed with a text from Maya. "Drama club meeting, running late. Will you be home by 6?" Jennifer smiled and typed back, "I'll be there. Want to pick up Chinese food on the way?" "Yes, please. Extra dumplings." Maya had changed too over these past 3 months. She'd joined the drama club at school, made new friends, and seemed lighter somehow, less burdened by the constant worry that had shadowed her childhood. Having a mother who wasn't perpetually exhausted and stressed had made a difference. Having stability, security, a future that looked brighter than the past, all of it had given Maya permission to be a kid again. Jennifer checked her watch. 4:45 p.m. She had another hour before she needed to leave. She pulled up her case files and started drafting follow-up emails to the families she was currently supporting, making sure no one fell through the cracks, that everyone knew they had someone in their corner. Her desk phone rang. "Jennifer Amber." "Ms. Amber, this is Detective Sarah Chen from the District Attorney's Office." A professional voice, crisp and businesslike. "I'm calling about the Eleanor Patterson case. Do you have a few minutes to talk?" Jennifer's stomach clenched. She'd been dreading this call for months, knowing it would eventually come. "Of course." "As you're probably aware, Mrs. Patterson's trial is scheduled to begin in 2 weeks. The prosecution would like to call you as a witness, not about the evidence, but about your employment with the Pattersons and Mrs. Patterson's general demeanor and behavior during the time you worked for her." "I see," Jennifer said carefully. "What exactly would I need to testify about?" "Mostly character testimony. Did Mrs. Patterson ever discuss the foundation with you? Did you observe anything unusual about her behavior? Did you have any reason to believe she was engaged in criminal activity?" That sort of thing. Jennifer thought about the hundreds of times she'd cleaned the Patterson estate, the countless interactions with Eleanor, always polite but distant, always treating Jennifer as invisible help, never suspecting that the cleaning lady might notice anything or matter at all. I can do that, Jennifer said. When would you need me? We'll notify you at least 48 hours before your testimony date. It should be during the first week of trial. Thank you for your cooperation, Ms. Amber. I know this isn't easy. After hanging up, Jennifer sat back in her chair and stared at her computer screen without seeing it. The trial. She'd known it was coming, but somehow she'd let herself believe she could avoid being directly involved. That the anonymous tip to the FBI would be enough, that she could just fade into the background while justice played out. But of course, it wouldn't be that simple. Nothing about this situation had been simple. Her personal phone buzzed. The Shadow. She hadn't heard from him in 6 weeks. Not since Christmas, when a package had appeared at her door containing expensive gifts for Maya and a card that simply read, "Merry Christmas. You're doing great work at the hospital. PR." The text was brief. "The prosecutor called you about testifying?" Jennifer frowned. How did he know that? Did he have sources in the DA's office too? Of course he did. The Shadow had sources everywhere. Yes, 2 weeks from now. Are you worried? Jennifer considered the question. Was she worried? Eleanor Patterson was in jail, awaiting trial, unable to hurt anyone. The trial was just a formality at this point. The evidence against her was overwhelming. But still, a little, Jennifer admitted. I've never testified in court before. You'll do fine. Just tell the truth. That's all they need from you. Easy for you to say. You're probably used to courtrooms. A pause, and then, I've spent more time in courtrooms than I'd like to admit, but never as a defendant. I'm too careful for that. Don't worry, Jennifer. Eleanor Patterson can't hurt you anymore, and her legal team knows that going after you would only make her look worse. Jennifer wanted to believe that, but there was still a knot of anxiety in her stomach that wouldn't quite loosen. Thank you, she typed, for the reassurance, and for the Christmas gifts. Maya loved the art supplies. I'm glad. She's talented. I saw some of her drawings on your social media. She should pursue that. Jennifer felt a small chill. She'd made her social media profiles private after the Eleanor Patterson situation, but apparently that didn't mean much when it came to the Shadow's ability to access information. Are you checking up on us? Occasionally, just making sure you're both safe and thriving. Old habits. Jennifer didn't know whether to be comforted or disturbed by that admission. She settled on accepting it as part of their strange arrangement. The Shadow had made her and Maya his responsibility, and apparently that meant ongoing surveillance. We're fine. Better than fine, actually. The job is everything I hoped it would be. Good. You deserve happiness, Jennifer. Both of you do. The conversation ended there, and Jennifer returned to her work. But she found her mind wandering to the Shadow, wondering what his life looked like, what a Korean mafia boss did on a random Tuesday afternoon in January. Did he have an office somewhere? Did he have people who worked for him, who reported to him, who feared him? And why did he care so much about a cleaning lady and her daughter? She still didn't have answers to those questions, and she'd come to accept that she probably never would. The Shadow was an enigma, a contradiction, a criminal with a code of ethics, a dangerous man who protected the vulnerable, a stranger who'd become something like a guardian angel, albeit a very morally ambiguous one. At 5:45 p.m., Jennifer packed up her things and headed out. The hospital hallways were quieter now as the evening shift took over. She said goodbye to a few nurses she'd gotten to know, waved to Dr. Richardson as she passed his office, and took the elevator down to the lobby. The winter air hit her face as she exited the building, cold and sharp, but invigorating. Jennifer pulled her coat tighter and headed to her car. Not the old Honda Civic anymore. She'd traded that in last month for a newer used Camry that didn't burn oil or make concerning noises. Another small change, another sign that her life was genuinely different now. She stopped at the Chinese restaurant Maya loved and picked up their order. Dumplings, fried rice, orange chicken, enough for dinner and leftovers. The owner, Mrs. Wu, greeted her warmly. Jennifer had been coming here for years, but always ordering the cheapest items, always counting her change carefully. Now she could order what she wanted without calculating whether she could afford it. It was a small freedom, but it meant everything. By the time Jennifer got home, Maya was already there, sprawled on the couch with her homework spread out on the coffee table. Mom, finally, I'm starving. Drama Club ran that late? We're doing a winter showcase in February, and Ms. Peterson wanted to go over the schedule like 500 times. Maya helped carry the food to the kitchen table. But I got the part I wanted. I'm playing the narrator. That's wonderful, baby. Jennifer set out plates and started dividing up the food. The narrator is an important role. I know, right? I have to memorize like a million lines, but I'm excited. Maya grabbed a dumpling with her chopsticks. Oh, and guess what? Rachel invited me to her birthday party next weekend. Can I go? It's at that trampoline place downtown. Jennifer felt her chest tighten slightly. Birthday parties meant gifts, party activities, expenses she used to have to carefully budget for. But now, of course you can go. We'll get Rachel a nice present this weekend. Maya's face lit up. Really? You don't have to check if we can afford it first? The question hit Jennifer hard. Her daughter was 10 years old and had already learned to expect financial anxiety as a constant backdrop to life. That wasn't right. Children shouldn't have to worry about money. We can afford it, Jennifer said firmly. You're allowed to just be a kid, Maya. To go to parties and have fun and not worry about whether we have enough money. Okay? Maya nodded, but Jennifer saw the understanding in her daughter's eyes, the awareness that things had fundamentally changed. Their life was different now. Better. More secure. They ate dinner together, and Maya chattered about school and drama club and her friends. Jennifer listened and asked questions and tried to be fully present, but part of her mind kept drifting to the upcoming trial, to the testimony she'd have to give, to Eleanor Patterson sitting in a jail cell somewhere, probably still convinced she'd done nothing wrong. After dinner, while Maya worked on homework, Jennifer's phone rang, unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Hello? Ms. Amber, this is Richard Patterson. Jennifer nearly dropped the phone. She hadn't spoken to Richard Patterson since before Eleanor's arrest. The last time had been that phone call when he'd asked if she'd seen anything unusual at the house, and she'd lied and said no. Mr. Patterson, Hello. I wasn't expecting to hear from you. I know, I apologize for calling out of the blue. His voice sounded older, more tired than she remembered. I hope you don't mind. I got your number from the hospital. I've been making donations to the oncology wing, and they mentioned you were working there now. As a patient care coordinator? Yes, sir. I started 3 months ago. That's wonderful, Jennifer. I'm glad you found a position that's meaningful to you. A pause. I'm calling because I wanted to speak with you before the trial begins. I know the prosecutor plans to call you as a witness. Jennifer's grip tightened on the phone. Yes, they contacted me today. I want you to know that I don't blame you for any of this. I know Eleanor tried to claim you'd broken into her study, but I never believed that, not for a second. You were always trustworthy, always reliable. Whatever you saw that night, whatever evidence you found, you did the right thing by reporting it. Jennifer felt tears prickling at her eyes. I'm so sorry, Mr. Patterson. I never wanted to hurt you. I couldn't stand by and watch what she was doing. Not after Marcus. Her voice broke. I know, Richard said gently. And you shouldn't apologize. Eleanor hurt me, not you. She betrayed our son's memory, stole from families who were suffering, and nearly destroyed the foundation we built in Tommy's name. You exposed that. You did something brave and difficult, and I'm grateful to you for it. Jennifer wiped at her eyes with the back of her hand. Thank you for saying that. I've been carrying so much guilt. Don't. Eleanor made her choices. Now she has to face the consequences. A heavy sigh. I'm rebuilding the foundation from the ground up. New board members, new oversight, complete financial transparency. We've already started returning the stolen funds to the families who were shortchanged. It's going to take years to restore public trust, but I'm committed to honoring Tommy's memory the right way. That's good. That's really good. And Jennifer, when you testify, just tell the truth. Don't protect Eleanor, but don't embellish either. Just be honest about what you saw and experienced. That's all anyone can ask of you. After they hung up, Jennifer sat on the couch and let herself cry. Not from sadness exactly, but from relief. Richard Patterson didn't hate her, he didn't blame her, he was grateful. Maybe she could finally let go of the guilt she'd been carrying. Maya emerged from her room and saw Jennifer crying. Mom, are you okay? Jennifer wiped her eyes and smiled. Yeah, baby, I'm okay. Just had an emotional conversation. Come here. Maya curled up next to her on the couch, and Jennifer wrapped her arm around her daughter. They sat like that for a long time, watching the snow fall outside their window, the city lights reflecting off the white streets. Mom? Maya asked quietly. Do you still miss Dad? Every day, Jennifer admitted. But it's different now. It doesn't hurt as much as it used to, and I think he'd be proud of us, of how we've survived, how we've built a new life. I think so too, Maya agreed. He always said you were the strongest person he knew. Jennifer kissed the top of her daughter's head. We're both strong. We get that from him. They stayed on the couch until Maya's bedtime, talking about nothing important and everything important. The kind of rambling conversation that mothers and daughters have when they're comfortable with silence and comfortable with each other. After Maya went to bed, Jennifer checked her phone and found another message from the shadow. Richard Patterson called you? How did you? Never mind. Yes, he called. He doesn't blame me for what happened. Of course he doesn't. You saved his reputation and his foundation. He should be thanking you, not the other way around. He is thanking me. He's making donations to the hospital. I know. I may have suggested that particular charity to him. Jennifer smiled despite herself. You're always pulling strings, aren't you? Someone has to. The world doesn't fix itself. Is that your philosophy? Fix the world by pulling strings from the shadows? My philosophy is much simpler than that. Keep your promises, protect the people who matter, and make sure the people who exploit the vulnerable face consequences. Everything else is just tactics. Jennifer read that message twice, trying to understand this complicated man who'd changed her life. Why did we matter to you, really? It can't just be about repaying a debt to an anonymous hotel maid. A long pause. Then, my mother was a cleaning lady. She worked 3 jobs just like you did. She was invisible to everyone who mattered, just like you were. She died because she couldn't afford proper health care, because the system failed her, because no one cared about a poor immigrant woman who cleaned offices. When I met you at the hospital, when you helped me find my way, even though you were exhausted from your own work, you reminded me of her. And I thought, not this time. This time, the cleaning lady gets to survive. This time, the cleaning lady gets a better life. Jennifer stared at her phone, tears streaming down her face. All this time, she'd wondered why the shadow had helped her, why he'd gone to such lengths to protect her and Maya. Now she understood. She hadn't been a random stranger to him. She'd been his mother, getting a second chance at the life she deserved. Thank you, Jennifer typed, though the words felt inadequate. Thank you for seeing me when I was invisible. Thank you for caring. Thank you for reminding me why I do what I do. Get some rest, Jennifer. The trial will be difficult, but you'll get through it. And when it's over, you can finally close this chapter and move forward completely. Will I hear from you after the trial? Another pause. Do you want to? Jennifer considered the question. Did she want to maintain contact with the shadow? He was a criminal, someone who operated outside the law, someone dangerous, but he'd also been kind to her and Maya, had kept every promise, had given them a chance at a better life. I think so, she typed honestly. You're a complicated person, and I don't understand everything you do, but you've been good to us, so yes. I'd like to stay in touch. Then you will. I'll always be here if you need me, Jennifer. That's a promise. The conversation ended there, and Jennifer sat in the quiet of her apartment, processing everything. In 2 weeks, she would testify at Eleanor Patterson's trial. She would tell the truth about what she'd observed during her time cleaning the Patterson estate. She would face Eleanor one more time, but from a position of strength instead of fear. And then it would truly be over. The nightmare that had started with one mistaken text message would finally end, and Jennifer could move forward completely into the new life she'd built. She thought about Marcus, about how he'd always believed she was stronger than she gave herself credit for. He'd been right. She'd survived his death, survived poverty, survived accidentally getting involved with a mafia boss and high society corruption. She'd not only survived, she'd thrived. Jennifer stood and walked to her bedroom, passing Maya's door where she could hear her daughter breathing softly in sleep. She paused to look in at her beautiful child, this 10-year-old girl who'd been through so much but who was finally getting to just be a kid. Everything they'd endured, everything they'd survived had led them here, to this apartment that was slowly becoming a home, to this life that was slowly becoming something more than mere survival, to this future that looked brighter than the past. Jennifer climbed into her own bed and pulled the covers up, feeling a peace she hadn't felt in years. In 2 weeks, she would face Eleanor Patterson one last time. But she wouldn't face her as the invisible cleaning lady who could be intimidated or silenced. She would face her as Jennifer Amber, patient care coordinator, as a woman who'd found her strength, as someone who mattered. And Eleanor Patterson would have to answer for what she'd done to all the families she'd stolen from, all the children whose treatment she'd funded with her crimes, all the trust she'd betrayed. Justice was coming, and Jennifer would be there to witness it. The courthouse stood imposing against the gray February sky, all concrete and glass, and the weight of countless judgments rendered within its walls. Jennifer stood on the sidewalk outside, clutching her purse and trying to calm her racing heart. She'd received the call 2 days ago. Her testimony was scheduled for today at 10 a.m. Maya was at school, safe and unaware of exactly what her mother was about to do. Jennifer had told her she had an important meeting for work, which was technically true. She hadn't wanted to burden her daughter with the details, hadn't wanted Maya worrying about her all day. Mrs. Chen had promised to pick Maya up from school if Jennifer wasn't back in time. Another small comfort, knowing that her support system extended beyond just herself now. Ms. Amber? A young woman in a professional suit approached. I'm Assistant DA Rachel Kim. We spoke on the phone. Thank you for coming. Jennifer shook her hand, trying to project confidence she didn't entirely feel. Of course, I want to help. Let me walk you through what's going to happen. The defense attorney will try to paint you as a disgruntled employee who fabricated evidence or stole documents. Don't let that rattle you. Just answer the questions honestly and directly. Don't volunteer extra information. If you don't know something, say you don't know. And remember, you're not on trial here. Eleanor Patterson is. They entered the courthouse, passed through security, and took an elevator to the fourth floor. Rachel Kim led Jennifer to a small witness room and went over her testimony one more time, preparing her for the kinds of questions she might face. At 9:45, a bailiff came to collect Jennifer. The trial is ready for you, Miss Amber. Jennifer's legs felt like jelly as she followed the bailiff down the corridor. They paused outside the courtroom doors and the bailiff gave her an encouraging smile. You'll do fine. Just tell the truth. Everyone kept saying that. Tell the truth. As if the truth were simple. As if it weren't complicated by guilt and fear and the knowledge that her testimony could help send a woman to prison for decades. The bailiff opened the door and Jennifer stepped into the courtroom. It was larger than she'd expected, with high ceilings and wood paneling that gave it an air of gravitas. The gallery was packed with reporters, curious onlookers, and a few faces Jennifer recognized. Richard Patterson sat in the front row, looking haggard but resolute. He met her eyes and gave her a small nod of encouragement. And there, at the defense table, sat Eleanor Patterson. Jennifer's breath caught. She'd seen Eleanor countless times over 3 years of cleaning her house, but this version was different. Gone was the perfectly coiffed hair and designer clothing. Eleanor wore a simple navy suit, minimal makeup, and an expression of barely contained fury. When their eyes met, Eleanor's gaze was pure venom. Jennifer looked away quickly and focused on the judge, a stern-looking woman in her 60s who was reviewing some documents. Ms. Amber, please approach the witness stand, the bailiff instructed. Jennifer's legs carried her forward on autopilot. She was sworn in, placed her hand on the Bible, Promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Then she sat down in the witness box and tried to breathe normally. Rachel Kim approached with a reassuring smile. Ms. Amber, can you please state your full name and occupation for the record? Jennifer Ann Amber. I'm a patient care coordinator at St. Mercy's Hospital. And prior to your current position, what was your occupation? I worked 3 jobs: janitorial services at St. Mercy's Hospital, cleaning residential properties through a service agency, and as a dishwasher and busser at Kimchi House Restaurant. And one of those residential properties you cleaned was the home of Richard and Eleanor Patterson, correct? Yes, ma'am. I cleaned their estate every Tuesday and Friday evening for approximately 3 years. Rachel Kim walked Jennifer through the basics: how she'd gotten the job, what her duties included, how often she interacted with Eleanor Patterson. Jennifer kept her answers brief and factual, just as Rachel had instructed. Ms. Amber, can you describe Mrs. Patterson's general demeanor during your time working for her? Jennifer chose her words carefully. She was polite but distant. She treated me as household staff, professional but not warm. She rarely spoke to me beyond giving instructions about cleaning tasks. Did she ever discuss the Tommy Patterson Foundation with you? No, ma'am. I knew about the foundation because there were photos and plaques throughout the house commemorating their son Tommy and the charity work done in his name. But Mrs. Patterson never discussed the foundation's operations with me directly. Did you ever observe anything unusual about Mrs. Patterson's behavior? Anything that seemed suspicious or out of character? Jennifer thought back to those 3 years. She received a lot of phone calls that she would take in private. Sometimes I'd hear her speaking in what sounded like heated conversations, but I couldn't make out the words. She also had a private study that she kept locked and that I was instructed never to enter or clean. Were you eventually given access to that study? Yes. About 4 months ago, Mrs. Patterson asked me to dust and clean her study while she was out of town. She gave me a key and specific instructions about being careful with her things. Rachel Kim nodded. And what happened during that cleaning session? Jennifer's heart pounded. This was it, the crucial testimony. I was dusting a decorative box on one of the shelves and I accidentally knocked it over. A leather-bound ledger fell out from behind the box where it had been hidden. And what did you do when you found this ledger? I picked it up to put it back, but it fell open. I saw what looked like financial records, account numbers, transfer amounts, dates. The numbers were very large, in the millions. Something about it felt wrong, so I looked more closely. What did you see? I saw donations listed that didn't match the amounts I'd seen publicized for the foundation. I saw transfers to offshore accounts. I saw what appeared to be falsified receipts. Jennifer's voice strengthened as she spoke. My late husband died of pancreatic cancer 2 years ago. The Tommy Patterson Foundation helped us pay for some of his treatment. When I realized that money was being stolen from that foundation, from families like mine who were desperate and suffering, I couldn't just ignore it. What did you do with this information? I took photographs of the pages with my phone. Then I put the ledger back exactly where I found it and finished my cleaning shift. I planned to report what I'd found to someone in authority. And did you? Jennifer hesitated. This was the part she'd been dreading. I attempted to send a message to Mr. Richard Patterson about what I'd discovered. But in my exhaustion, I'd been working since 5 a.m. that day. I accidentally sent it to the wrong contact in my phone. Who did you actually send the message to? Someone I had helped at the hospital a few weeks earlier. A man who'd given me his contact information in case I ever needed help. I didn't realize the mistake until after I'd sent it. Rachel Kim nodded, accepting this version of events that had been carefully crafted to avoid mentioning the shadow by name. The prosecution had agreed not to press Jennifer on the identity of the person she'd contacted, considering that person had ultimately provided the FBI with crucial evidence. And what happened to the photographs you took? They were deleted from my phone shortly after. I no longer have copies. Ms. Amber, one final question. In your 3 years working for the Pattersons, did you ever have any reason to believe that Mrs. Eleanor Patterson was engaged in criminal activity before the night you found that ledger? No, ma'am. I had no idea. I trusted that the foundation was legitimate, that the work they did was genuine. Finding that ledger was shocking and heartbreaking. Thank you, Miss Amber. No further questions. Rachel Kim returned to her seat, and Jennifer felt a brief moment of relief, but it was short lived. Eleanor Patterson's defense attorney, a sharp faced man in an expensive suit, stood up and approached the witness stand with the predatory smile of someone who enjoyed his work. Ms. Amber, you stated that you worked 3 jobs to support yourself and your daughter. That must have been exhausting. It was, yes. Were you happy working for the Pattersons? Did you feel you were compensated fairly? Jennifer saw where this was going. I was paid the standard rate for residential cleaning services. It was fair compensation for the work I did. But surely you must have felt some resentment, cleaning the mansion of a wealthy family while you struggled to make ends meet? While you worked yourself to exhaustion just to keep food on the table? No, Jennifer said firmly. I didn't resent the Pattersons. I was grateful for the work. Really? You felt no bitterness at all toward people who had so much while you had so little? Objection, Rachel Kim called out. Argumentative and assumes facts not in evidence. Sustained, the judge said. Counselor, move on. The defense attorney didn't look fazed. Ms. Amber, you claim you accidentally sent a message about the ledger to the wrong person. Isn't it convenient that this wrong person just happened to have connections that allowed them to provide evidence to the FBI? I don't understand the question, Jennifer said carefully. I'm suggesting that perhaps you didn't accidentally send that message at all. Perhaps you deliberately sought out someone with resources and connections to help you expose the Pattersons. That's not true. It was a genuine mistake. And yet you benefited quite significantly from this mistake, didn't you? Shortly after Mrs. Patterson's arrest, you received a promotion at the hospital, a substantial pay increase. How fortuitous for you. Jennifer's hands clenched in her lap. My promotion at the hospital had nothing to do with Mrs. Patterson's arrest. The hospital created a new position, and I applied for it based on my qualifications and personal experience. Personal experience that includes photographing private documents that didn't belong to you? Objection. Rachel Kim was on her feet. The witness has already testified that she discovered the ledger accidentally while performing her legitimate duties. Sustained. Counselor, you're badgering the witness. But the defense attorney wasn't done. He spent another 20 minutes trying to poke holes in Jennifer's testimony, suggesting she'd stolen the ledger, fabricated the photographs, or conspired with unknown parties to frame Eleanor Patterson. Jennifer held her ground, answering each question as calmly and honestly as she could, refusing to be rattled by his aggressive tactics. Finally, the judge called a halt. That's enough, counselor. The witness has answered your questions. Do you have anything new to add? No, Your Honor. The defense rests its cross-examination. Jennifer was dismissed. She stood on shaking legs and walked back through the courtroom, acutely aware of every eye on her. Eleanor Patterson's gaze burned into her back, but Jennifer kept her eyes forward, her spine straight. She'd done it. She'd told the truth. Now it was up to the jury to decide what to do with that truth. Outside the courtroom, Rachel Kim caught up with her. You did excellent work in there. I know it wasn't easy, but you were credible and composed. The jury will believe you. Thank you, Jennifer managed. Is it over? Do I need to come back? No, we're done with you. Thank you for your testimony, Miss Amber. You helped ensure justice will be served. Jennifer left the courthouse and stood on the steps, breathing in the cold February air. Her hands were still shaking, and her heart was still racing, but it was done. She'd faced Eleanor Patterson, told her truth, and survived. Her phone buzzed. The shadow. You were magnificent, strong, honest, unshakable. Eleanor's defense attorney looked like he wanted to crawl under the table by the end. Jennifer looked around the courthouse steps, suddenly aware that he or his people must have been inside, watching her testimony. Were you in the courtroom? I have my ways of accessing information. Don't worry about the specifics. What matters is that you did exactly what needed to be done. The jury will convict her. I'm certain of it. I hope you're right. I just want this to be over. It will be, soon. And Jennifer, I'm proud of you for what that's worth. Jennifer felt unexpected tears prick at her eyes. When was the last time someone had said they were proud of her? Marcus probably, back before the cancer had stolen him away. It's worth a lot, she typed back. Thank you. She took a cab back to her apartment, too emotionally drained to deal with public transportation. Once home, she changed into comfortable clothes and made herself tea, trying to calm her still racing heart. The trial would continue for another week or two as the prosecution presented the rest of their case and the defense mounted their argument. But Jennifer's part was done. She'd testified. She'd told the truth. Now she just had to wait for the verdict. At 3:30, Maya burst through the door, full of energy from her school day. Mom, you're home early. How was your work meeting? Jennifer pulled her daughter into a hug, breathing in the scent of her strawberry shampoo and childhood innocence. It was fine, baby. Intense, but fine. How was school? Good. We practiced for the showcase again. Miss Gagnon Peterson says I'm the best narrator she's ever had. Maya's face glowed with pride. That's wonderful, sweetheart. I'm so proud of you. They settled into their afternoon routine. Homework at the kitchen table while Jennifer prepared dinner, casual conversation about Maya's day and her friends and the drama of fifth grade social dynamics. Normal things, safe things, the kind of peaceful domesticity that Jennifer had once thought would be forever out of reach. That evening, after Maya went to bed, Jennifer sat on her couch with a glass of wine, a luxury she still wasn't quite used to, and turned on the news. The Eleanor Patterson trial was the lead story. Testimony today from Jennifer Amber, a former cleaning lady who worked for the Pattersons and who discovered evidence of the embezzlement scheme. Ms. Kralkwartz, Amber's testimony was emotional but credible, and prosecutors believe it significantly strengthens their case. The trial is expected to conclude next week, with a verdict likely by the end of the month. Jennifer watched footage of herself leaving the courthouse, her face carefully composed, and barely recognized the woman on screen. She looked strong, confident, like someone who knew her own worth. When had that happened? When had she transformed from the invisible cleaning lady to this woman who could stand up in court and tell her truth without flinching? Maybe it had been happening gradually all along, one small choice at a time. The choice to take those photographs. The choice to reach out for help, even accidentally. The choice to trust the shadow's protection. The choice to accept the job at the hospital. The choice to build a better life instead of just surviving. Hundreds of small choices that had added up to a fundamental transformation. Her phone rang. Richard Patterson. Mr. Patterson, Jennifer answered. Hello. Jennifer, I just wanted to call and tell you how impressed I was by your testimony today. You were honest and brave, and you handled that defense attorney's attacks with remarkable grace. Thank you, sir. That means a lot. I also wanted you to know that the Foundation's board met this afternoon. We've voted to establish a new program in your name, the Jennifer Amber Patient Support Fund. It will provide direct financial assistance to cancer patients and their families who are struggling with medical bills. We're seeding it with $5 million. Jennifer's breath caught. Mr. Patterson, I don't know what to say. That's incredibly generous, but I don't need. It's not about what you need, Jennifer. It's about honoring what you did. You exposed corruption because you cared about the families we were supposed to be helping. You risked everything to do the right thing. The least we can do is create something meaningful in your name. After they hung up, Jennifer sat in stunned silence. A fund in her name. $5 million to help families like hers had been, like the Kawasaki's were now. Marcus would have been proud. He would have loved knowing that Jennifer's courage had led to something so meaningful. Her phone buzzed again. The shadow, of course. A fund in your name. You're becoming quite notable, Jennifer Amber. I don't want to be notable. I just want to help people. You can do both. In fact, being notable might help you reach more people who need what you have to offer. Jennifer considered that. I suppose. It's just strange going from invisible to visible so quickly. You were never invisible. You just worked for people who chose not to see you, but I saw you. Richard Patterson sees you now. The families you help at the hospital see you. You've always been visible to the people who matter. Jennifer read that message several times, feeling something shift in her chest. He was right. She'd always been visible to the people who truly looked. Her worth had never been dependent on other people's acknowledgement. She'd always had it. She just hadn't recognized it in herself. "Thank you," she typed. "For everything, but especially for seeing me when I couldn't see myself." That's what friends do. Friends. Was that what they were? A cleaning lady and a mafia boss connected by one mistaken text message and a shared belief that some debts could only be repaid forward? "Are we friends?" Jennifer asked. "I think we might be. Is that acceptable to you?" Jennifer smiled despite herself. "It's acceptable. Strange, morally complicated, and probably not something I should admit to anyone, but acceptable." "Welcome to my world. Everything is strange and morally complicated here." "So I've noticed." They texted for another 30 minutes about nothing important. Maya's drama showcase, the upcoming verdict, Jennifer's plans for the weekend. It felt almost normal, chatting with the shadow like he was just a regular person instead of a criminal mastermind. But maybe that was the point. Maybe everyone was just a person under all the labels and roles and reputations. Finally, Jennifer said goodnight and put her phone down. She was exhausted down to her bones, the stress of the day finally catching up with her. But it was a good exhaustion, the kind that came from doing something difficult but necessary. She checked on Maya one last time. Her daughter was sprawled across her bed, one arm dangling off the side, her stuffed rabbit clutched loosely in the other hand. Jennifer pulled the blanket up over her and pressed a gentle kiss to her forehead. "We did it, baby," she whispered. "We survived, and tomorrow we get to keep living." As Jennifer climbed into her own bed, she thought about all the people whose lives had intersected with hers over the past 4 months. Eleanor Patterson, who'd stolen from the vulnerable and was now facing justice. Richard Patterson, who'd been betrayed but was choosing to rebuild. The Shadow, who'd protected them and kept his promises. Mrs. Chen, who'd been watching over them all along. Dr. Richardson and the hospital staff who'd given her a chance at meaningful work. And Maya. Always Maya. The reason for everything. The light that had kept Jennifer going through the darkest times. Jennifer fell asleep thinking about Marcus, hoping he could see them now, hoping he knew that they were okay. Better than okay. They were thriving. And in a city somewhere below, the Shadow went about his mysterious business, pulling strings and keeping promises and making sure that at least in his corner of the world, the people who exploited the vulnerable faced consequences. The trial would conclude soon. The verdict would come. And regardless of the outcome, Jennifer knew she would be okay. Because she'd finally learned what Marcus had always tried to tell her. She was stronger than she thought, braver than she knew, and worthy of all the good things that were finally coming her way. The verdict came on a gray Thursday afternoon, 3 weeks after Jennifer's testimony. She was at work, sitting in her office and reviewing care plans for new patients when her phone buzzed with a news alert. Breaking. Eleanor Patterson found guilty on all counts. Jennifer's hands trembled as she clicked on the article. The jury had deliberated for less than 6 hours before returning with their verdict: guilty of embezzlement, money laundering, wire fraud, and conspiracy. Eleanor Patterson faced up to 40 years in federal prison. Sentencing was scheduled for 6 weeks from now, but the article quoted legal experts saying she would likely receive at least 25 years, possibly more given the scope of the crimes and her complete lack of remorse. Jennifer sat back in her chair, letting the news wash over her. It was done. Truly, finally done. Eleanor Patterson would spend the rest of her productive life in prison, and the money she'd stolen would be returned to the foundation, to the families she'd betrayed. Justice had been served. Jennifer felt tears streaming down her face before she even realized she was crying. Not tears of sadness, but of relief so profound, it felt like a physical weight lifting from her shoulders. For 4 months, she'd been living with the fear that somehow Eleanor would escape consequences, that her expensive lawyers would find a loophole, that justice would fail the way it so often did for people with money and power. But not this time. This time, the system had worked. A knock on her door made her hastily wipe at her eyes. Dr. Richardson stood in the doorway, his expression gentle with understanding. I heard about the verdict, he said quietly. I thought you might need a moment. Take the rest of the afternoon off, Jennifer. Go home, be with Maya, process this. Thank you, Jennifer managed. I think I will. She gathered her things and headed out, passing through the oncology wing where several nurses called out congratulations. Apparently, news of the verdict had spread quickly through the hospital. Jennifer appreciated their support but found herself eager to escape the attention, to find someplace quiet where she could think. Instead of going straight home, Jennifer drove to Forest Hills Cemetery, the place where Marcus was buried. She hadn't been there in months, too caught up in the chaos of her new life to make the time. But today felt like a day for it. A day to share the news with the man who'd always believed in her. The cemetery was peaceful, mostly empty on a Thursday afternoon. Jennifer parked and walked the familiar path to Marcus's grave, a simple headstone with his name and dates, and the inscription she'd chosen. Beloved husband and father, forever in our hearts. She knelt beside the grave and ran her fingers over the engraved letters. Hey, baby, it's been a while. I'm sorry about that. Things have been crazy. Jennifer took a breath and told him everything. About accidentally texting the shadow, about finding the ledger, about Eleanor Patterson's arrest and trial and conviction, about her new job at the hospital, about Maya thriving in drama club, about the $50,000 that had given them breathing room, and the fund being established in her name. I wish you were here to see it, she said softly. You always said I was stronger than I thought. I didn't believe you then, but you were right. I survived losing you, which was the hardest thing I've ever done. Everything else has been easier by comparison. She sat beside his grave for a long time, watching the clouds drift across the gray sky, feeling the cold earth beneath her. Marcus wasn't here, she knew that. His spirit, his essence, whatever made him uniquely him, had moved on 2 years ago. But still, being here felt right, like honoring a promise she'd made when he died, that she would take care of Maya, that she would build a good life, that she wouldn't just survive, but would actually live. I'm doing it, she whispered. I'm keeping my promise. We're going to be okay, Marcus. Better than okay. I wish you could see us. Her phone buzzed. The shadow. I saw the verdict. How are you feeling? Jennifer smiled through her tears. I'm at Marcus's grave. Telling him the news? That's good. He should know. He should know his wife is a warrior who changed the world. I didn't change the world. I just exposed one corrupt woman. You exposed corruption that was hurting vulnerable families. You helped recover $40 million that will now go to people who desperately need it. You testified in court despite your fear. You helped send a criminal to prison. That's changing the world, Jennifer. Maybe not the whole world, but the world for every family the Patterson Foundation will now legitimately help. Jennifer read the message twice, letting the words sink in. Maybe he was right. Maybe she had changed the world in her own small way. Thank you, she typed, for believing in me, for protecting us, for keeping your promises. Always. Are you planning to celebrate? This is a victory, Jennifer. You should acknowledge it. I don't know. Maybe I'll take Maya out to dinner tonight. Somewhere nice. Do that. And Jennifer, I have something for you. A gift to commemorate what you've accomplished. May I bring it by this evening? Around 7? Jennifer hesitated. She hadn't seen the shadow in person since that morning. He'd appeared at her door 4 months ago. They'd maintained their strange friendship through texts and occasional phone calls, but always at a distance. Seeing him again felt significant somehow, like crossing a threshold she couldn't uncross. But he'd earned the right to cross that threshold. He'd kept every promise he'd made. Okay, she typed. 7 o'clock, and thank you. Jennifer stayed at the cemetery for another hour, talking to Marcus about everything and nothing, crying and laughing, and finally saying goodbye. Not a permanent goodbye, she'd come back again, but a goodbye to the version of herself who'd knelt at this grave 2 years ago. broken and lost and convinced she'd never be whole again. That Jennifer was gone. The new Jennifer, stronger, braver, more certain of her own worth, was taking her place. By the time Jennifer got home, it was almost 4 p.m. Maya would be home from school soon. Jennifer changed into comfortable clothes and started preparing dinner. Nothing fancy, just pasta and salad, but made with care and attention instead of exhausted autopilot. Maya burst through the door at 4:15, full of her usual energy. Mom, did you hear? It was on the news at school. That lady who stole from the charity got found guilty. I heard, Jennifer said, pulling her daughter into a hug. It's good news. Justice was served. Did you have to testify at her trial? Jennifer pulled back to look at Maya. Yes, baby. Remember I told you I had that important meeting a few weeks ago? That's what it was. I had to tell the truth about what I knew. Maya's eyes went wide. You had to talk in front of a judge and everything? Were you scared? Terrified, Jennifer admitted. But sometimes you have to do scary things because they're the right things to do, you understand? Maya nodded solemnly. Like when I had to tell Principal Stevens that I saw Jacob cheating on the math test, even though I knew he'd be mad at me. Exactly like that. Doing the right thing isn't always easy, but it's important. They had dinner together, and Jennifer told Maya, in age-appropriate terms, about the verdict and what it meant. Maya asked thoughtful questions about justice and fairness and why people did bad things. Jennifer did her best to answer honestly without overwhelming her 10-year-old daughter with the complexities of human nature and systemic corruption. At 6:45, Jennifer warned Maya, someone is coming by around 7. A friend who helped us during some difficult times. I want you to be polite and respectful, okay? Is it that Korean man? The one Mrs. Chen works for? Jennifer blinked in surprise. How did you? Mrs. Chen talks about him sometimes when she walks me to the bus stop. She says he's a good man who helps people. She says we're lucky he's watching out for us. Maya tilted her head. Is that who's coming? Yes, Jennifer admitted. His name is Park Ryung, though people call him by another name. He's complicated, but he's been very kind to us, and I owe him a lot. Okay, Maya said simply, accepting this the way children accept the strange realities of adult life. Can I finish my homework in my room? Of course, baby. At exactly 7 p.m., 3 precise knocks sounded at the door, followed by a pause, then 2 more knocks. Jennifer took a deep breath and opened the door. The shadow stood in her hallway, dressed impeccably as always in a dark suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent. But there was something different about him tonight, a lightness in his expression, a warmth in his dark eyes that she hadn't seen before. Jennifer, he said, and the sound of her first name in his accented voice sent an unexpected flutter through her chest. May I come in? Of course. Jennifer stepped aside, acutely aware of how small and shabby her apartment must look to him. But if he noticed or cared, his face didn't show it. The shadow entered and immediately looked toward Maya's bedroom door, which was cracked open. Is Maya home? I'd like to meet her properly if that's acceptable to you. Jennifer hesitated, then called. Maya, can you come out here for a minute? Maya emerged from her room, her homework in hand, and stopped when she saw the shadow. For a moment, they simply looked at each other, the Korean Mafia boss and the 10-year-old girl whose life he'd helped change. Then the shadow did something Jennifer hadn't expected. He bowed formally, a deep bow of respect. Maya Amber, I'm Park Ryung. I'm honored to finally meet you properly. Maya's eyes went wide, but she recovered quickly and attempted an awkward curtsy. Nice to meet you too, Mr. Park. Thank you for helping my mom. Your mother is a remarkable woman. She didn't need much help, mostly just someone to open a few doors. The rest she did herself. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a wrapped package. This is for you. I understand you're interested in art. Maya took the package with careful hands and unwrapped it to reveal a professional-grade art set. Pencils, charcoal, pastels, everything an aspiring artist could want. Her face lit up with pure joy. Oh, wow, this is amazing. Thank you, Mr. Park. You're welcome. I look forward to seeing what you create with it. He turned to Jennifer. And this is for you. He handed her a small velvet box. Jennifer opened it to find a delicate silver necklace with a pendant, a simple design of a bird taking flight, rendered in exquisite detail. It's beautiful, Jennifer breathed. The phoenix, the shadow explained quietly. Rising from ashes, reborn into something stronger. I thought it was appropriate. Jennifer felt tears pricking at her eyes. Thank you, I don't know what to say. Say you'll wear it and remember that you survived, that you thrived, that you took your pain and turned it into purpose just like I suggested. His dark eyes held hers. You're an inspiration, Jennifer Amber. Don't ever forget that. Maya, oblivious to the charged moment between the adults, was already opening her new art supplies and examining each piece with reverent care. Mom, can I go try these out? Of course, baby. Go ahead. After Maya disappeared back into her room, Jennifer gestured for the shadow to sit. He settled onto her couch with the same controlled grace he'd shown 4 months ago, making himself comfortable in her modest space as if he belonged there. So, Jennifer said, sitting in the chair across from him, Eleanor Patterson got 40 years. Well, she could get up to 40 years. Sentencing is in 6 weeks. She'll get at least 25, the shadow said with certainty. The judge in her case is known for being tough on white-collar crimes, especially ones that victimize vulnerable populations. Eleanor's complete lack of remorse during the trial won't help her either. How do you know all this? I make it my business to know things. He smiled slightly. Besides, I have a personal interest in seeing Eleanor Patterson face appropriate consequences. I don't like people who steal from dying children. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Jennifer asked the question that had been nagging at her for months. Why did you really help us? I know you told me about your mother, about the hotel maid who saved your sister, but there has to be more to it than that. You've spent months watching over us, protecting us, opening doors for us. Why? The shadow was quiet for a long moment, his expression thoughtful. When he finally spoke, his voice was soft, almost vulnerable. Do you know what it's like to have power but feel powerless? To have money and influence and connections, but to still wake up every day remembering your mother dying because she couldn't afford proper health care? To remember being a 12-year-old boy watching his mother waste away, knowing that if she'd been born into a different family in a different country with different resources, she might have lived? Jennifer's throat tightened. I think I understand something like that. Yes? I built my organization on a principle. Protect the vulnerable from those who would exploit them. Yes, I operate outside the law. Yes, I do things that most people would consider criminal. But I have rules, Jennifer. I don't hurt innocent people. I don't exploit the weak. I take from those who take from others, and I use what I take to help people who have no one else. He leaned forward, his intensity palpable. When I met you at that hospital, when you helped me find my way without expecting anything in return, you reminded me why I do what I do. You were exhausted, overworked, invisible to everyone around you, but you still took a moment to help a stranger. That kindness, that small, simple act of human decency, is what's missing from so much of the world. The shadow's eyes locked onto hers. So when you accidentally sent me that message, when I realized you'd stumbled onto evidence of exactly the kind of exploitation I've spent my life fighting against, it felt like fate, like the universe giving me a chance to repay a debt that's been weighing on me for years. Not just to you, but to every cleaning lady, every janitor, every invisible person who keeps the world running while the people they serve ignore them. Jennifer wiped at her eyes. You made us visible. You were always visible. I just made sure other people couldn't ignore you anymore. He sat back. And now look at you, patient care coordinator. A fund in your name, making a real difference in people's lives. That's what you were meant to do, Jennifer. I just helped remove the obstacles in your way. You did more than that. You saved us. No, you saved yourselves. I just provided backup. They talked for another hour about everything and nothing. The shadow told her stories about his sister, who was doing well in Seattle and didn't know the full extent of what her brother did for a living. Jennifer told him about Marcus, about the good years before the cancer, about how hard it had been to watch him die. It was the most honest, open conversation Jennifer had had with anyone besides Maya in years. And the strangest part was that it felt natural, like they'd been friends for much longer than 4 months. Finally, the shadow stood to leave. I should go. I'm sure you're exhausted. It's been an emotional day. It has, Jennifer agreed, walking him to the door. Thank you for coming, for the gifts, for everything. He paused in the doorway and looked at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Jennifer, I want you to know something. Our arrangement, you calling me if you need help, me watching out for you and Maya, that's not going to end just because Eleanor Patterson is in prison. You're under my protection now, permanently. That's not a burden or an obligation. It's just a fact. If you or Maya ever need anything, you call me. Understood? Jennifer felt a surge of emotion, gratitude, relief, and something else she couldn't quite name. Understood. And the same goes for you. If you ever need, I don't know, a friend to talk to or help with something I can actually help with, you can call me too. The shadow smiled, a genuine, warm smile that transformed his face. I'll remember that. Good night, Jennifer. Congratulations on your victory. After he left, Jennifer stood in her doorway for a long moment, processing the evening. She'd just had a Korean mafia boss in her living room, drinking tea and talking about life and loss and the strange ways people connect. And somehow it had felt completely normal. Maya emerged from her room, her new art supplies spread across her desk. Mom? Mr. Park is nice. Is he going to be around more now? I don't know, baby. Maybe. Would that be okay with you? Maya considered this seriously. Yeah, I think so. He seems like someone who keeps his promises. And Mrs. Chen says that's the most important thing about a person, whether they keep their promises. Mrs. Chen is a wise woman, Jennifer agreed. That night, after Maya went to bed, Jennifer stood at her window and looked out at the city. Somewhere out there, the shadow was conducting his mysterious business, pulling strings, keeping promises, protecting people who needed protecting. And here, Jennifer was, in her modest apartment with her daughter sleeping peacefully down the hall, wearing a silver phoenix necklace and feeling genuinely happy for the first time in years. 4 months ago, she'd been invisible, a cleaning lady working 3 jobs, drowning in exhaustion and debt, with no hope that life would ever get better. Now she had a career, financial security, meaningful work, and a future that looked bright. She had friends in unexpected places. She had proven to herself that she was strong enough to face anything. And she had hope, real tangible hope that tomorrow would be better than yesterday, that Maya would have opportunities Jennifer never had, that their story would have a happy ending. Jennifer touched the phoenix pendant at her throat and thought about rising from ashes, about transformation and rebirth and second chances. She'd been given a second chance at life, and she was determined not to waste it. Her phone buzzed one last time. The shadow. Sleep well, Jennifer Amber. You've earned your rest. Tomorrow you continue building the life you deserve. Jennifer smiled and typed back. Tomorrow I help families at the hospital. Tomorrow I keep being Maya's mom. Tomorrow I keep living instead of just surviving. Thank you for making that possible. You're welcome. But remember, you made it possible. I just opened the door. You're the one who walked through it. Jennifer set her phone down and went to bed, the phoenix pendant still around her neck. As she drifted off to sleep, she thought about all the doors that had opened for her in the past 4 months, all the impossible things that had become possible. And she thought about the door that might open next, the future that was still being written, the life she was building one choice at a time. Whatever came next, she was ready for it. She'd survived the worst. Now she got to live the best. And that was a gift worth more than all the money and protection and opportunities in the world. 6 months later, the summer sun blazed down on the outdoor amphitheater where St. Mercy's Hospital was holding its annual benefit gala. Jennifer stood near the refreshment table, smoothing down the elegant navy dress she'd bought specifically for tonight. the first formal event she'd ever attended as something other than staff. Tonight, she was being honored. The Jennifer Amber Patient Support Fund had grown significantly since its inception, now totaling over $8 million thanks to additional donations from grateful families and corporate sponsors. The fund had already helped 43 families navigate cancer treatment, covering everything from medical bills to temporary housing to transportation costs. 43 families who wouldn't have to choose between rent and chemotherapy, between food and medication. Jennifer still couldn't quite believe it was real, that her name was attached to something so meaningful. Mom, you look beautiful, Maya said, appearing at her elbow. Her daughter had grown 2 inches in the past 6 months and looked impossibly grown up in her own new dress, pale pink with flowers embroidered at the hem. Maya would be 11 next month, racing toward adolescence faster than Jennifer was ready for. So do you, baby. The most beautiful girl here. Mrs. Chen helped me with my hair, Maya said, touching the elaborate braids wrapped around her head. She said I needed to look presentable for fancy party. Jennifer smiled. Mrs. Chen was here tonight, too, seated in the audience with several other hospital staff members. The elderly woman had become like family over the past months, always available to help with Maya, always ready with wise advice and honey candies, and that sharp-eyed assessment that saw more than most people realized. Ms. Amber. A young man with a clipboard approached. We're ready to begin the program in 10 minutes. You'll be called to the stage after Dr. Richardson's introduction. Jennifer's stomach clenched with nervousness. Public speaking had never been her strong suit, and tonight she was expected to give a speech in front of 200 people. Donors, hospital staff, board members, and several families the fund had helped. You'll be great, Maya said, squeezing her hand. Just pretend you're talking to one of the families at the hospital. You're always good at that. When did you get so wise? Jennifer asked, pulling her daughter close. I learned from the best. They made their way to their assigned seats near the front. Jennifer's phone buzzed with a text from the shadow. Break a leg tonight. Not literally, that would be counterproductive for someone in healthcare. Jennifer smiled and typed back. Are you here? I don't see you. I'm watching from a distance. I thought my presence might raise uncomfortable questions, but I wouldn't miss this, Jennifer. You've earned this recognition. Jennifer scanned the crowd but couldn't spot him anywhere. Then again, a man who'd survived decades in organized crime probably knew how to blend in or observe without being seen. The program began with Dr. Richardson taking the stage, his voice carrying clearly through the sound system. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us to celebrate the incredible work being done through our patient care programs. Tonight, we're particularly honored to recognize someone who has transformed the way we support families facing cancer diagnoses. Jennifer's heart raced as Dr. Richardson began recounting her story, though carefully edited to leave out any mention of Mafia bosses or accidentally texted evidence. The public version was simpler. Jennifer had worked multiple jobs to support her daughter after her husband's death from cancer. She'd experienced firsthand the gaps in the system, the ways families fell through the cracks. When an opportunity arose to work as a patient care coordinator, she'd seized it and had since helped dozens of families navigate their darkest hours. Jennifer Amber reminds us that the best healthcare isn't just about medicine, it's about seeing the whole person, understanding their struggles, and providing support that addresses not just physical illness but financial stress, emotional burden, and practical challenges, Dr. Richardson continued. The fund that bears her name has already changed lives, and we expect it will change hundreds more in the years to come. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Jennifer Amber to the stage. The applause was thunderous. Jennifer stood on shaking legs and made her way to the podium, acutely aware of every eye on her. Maya gave her an encouraging thumbs up from her seat. Jennifer reached the podium and took a moment to breathe, to center herself. Then she began to speak. Thank you, Dr. Richardson, and thank you all for being here tonight. 2 years ago, I stood in this very hospital and watched my husband take his last breath. Marcus died of pancreatic cancer at the age of 34, leaving me alone with our 8-year-old daughter and medical bills that seemed insurmountable. Jennifer's voice strengthened as she continued. I was angry. Angry at the disease that took him, angry at a healthcare system that seemed designed to bankrupt families already suffering, angry at a world that expected me to just keep functioning while my heart was breaking. But mostly, I was invisible. I was just another cleaning lady mopping floors, another struggling single mom, another statistic. She looked out at the audience, making eye contact with the families she'd helped. The Kawasakis, sitting together with 7-year-old Yumi between them, healthy now and cancer free. The Johnsons, whose teenage son was still in treatment but responding well. The Garcia family, the Patels, the O'Briens, all of them here because the fund had helped them when they needed it most. But I'm not invisible anymore, and neither are any of the families we serve through this fund. Every person facing cancer deserves to be seen, to be heard, to be supported. They deserve help navigating insurance bureaucracy and finding financial assistance and understanding their treatment options. They deserve someone who will sit with them during the scary moments and celebrate with them during the victories. Jennifer's voice grew passionate. This fund exists because good people decided that families shouldn't have to choose between treatment and survival, between medicine and food, between hope and despair. It exists because my husband's death meant something, because the pain I experienced can be transformed into purpose for others. She paused, gathering her thoughts for the most important part of her speech. I want to tell you about a moment that changed my life. I was working as a janitor, exhausted after 16 hours of work, when I saw a man looking lost in the hospital hallways. I could have ignored him. I was tired, overwhelmed with my own problems, and helping him wasn't my job. But I took 2 minutes to show him where he needed to go. Just 2 minutes of basic human kindness. Jennifer's eyes found Mrs. Chen in the audience. That small act of kindness created a ripple effect I never could have imagined. It connected me with people who saw value in me when I couldn't see it in myself. It led to opportunities I never thought possible. It changed the trajectory of my entire life and my daughter's future. She gripped the podium. That's what this fund does. It creates ripple effects. When we help one family afford treatment, that child grows up to become a teacher, a doctor, a parent who raises compassionate children. When we ease one mother's burden, she has energy left to be present for her kids, to pursue her dreams, to contribute to her community. Every family we help creates ripples that spread outward in ways we'll never fully see. Jennifer's voice softened. So, to everyone who has donated to this fund, who has volunteered their time, who has supported our mission, thank you. You're creating ripples of hope in a world that desperately needs them. And to the families we've helped, you are not invisible. You matter. Your struggles matter. Your victories matter. And we will be here for you every step of the way. The applause was deafening. Jennifer saw people standing, saw tears on faces throughout the audience, saw Maya beaming with pride. She stepped back from the podium, overwhelmed by the response, and Dr. Richardson came forward to shake her hand. Beautifully said, Jennifer. Beautifully said. The rest of the evening passed in a blur. Jennifer spoke with donors, hugged families she'd helped, posed for countless photos, and accepted so much praise that her cheeks hurt from smiling. It was exhausting and exhilarating and surreal all at once. At one point, she found herself face to face with Richard Patterson. He looked older than he had a year ago, the lines around his eyes deeper, his hair grayer. But there was peace in his expression, a sense of purpose regained. Jennifer, he said warmly, clasping her hand in both of his. That was a remarkable speech. Tommy would have been proud. He always believed in helping people who were overlooked and undervalued. You're carrying on his legacy in the most meaningful way possible. Thank you, Mr. Patterson. That means a lot coming from you. Please, call me Richard. And I wanted you to know, the Foundation has fully recovered from Eleanor's actions. We've restored all the stolen funds and implemented new oversight procedures. We're stronger now than we were before, more committed to our mission. In a strange way, what happened forced us to rebuild better. Jennifer nodded. I'm glad something good came from it all. So am I. Richard hesitated, then added, Eleanor's sentencing was finalized last week. 28 years in federal prison. She'll be eligible for parole in 20, but given her behavior during trial and her continued refusal to show remorse, The parole board is unlikely to grant it. How do you feel about that? Richard was quiet for a moment. Sad, angry, relieved, all of it at once. She was my wife for 15 years. I loved her, or thought I did. But the woman who stole from dying children in our son's name? I don't even recognize that person. So, yes, justice was served. And yes, it still hurts. I'm sorry, Jennifer said sincerely. I know none of this has been easy for you. No, but I'm rebuilding, just like you did. And that's what matters. Not what was destroyed, but what we build in its place. He squeezed her hand one more time. Thank you, Jennifer, for your courage, for your integrity, for reminding me that there are still good people in the world. After Richard walked away, Jennifer felt a presence behind her. She turned to find the shadow standing there, dressed in an impeccably tailored suit, a slight smile on his face. You came, Jennifer said, surprised. I thought you were watching from a distance. I was, but I couldn't leave without congratulating you in person. He glanced around to make sure no one was paying attention to them, then said quietly, that speech was extraordinary. You took your pain and turned it into a call to action. You made people see not just you, but all the invisible people society overlooks. That's powerful, Jennifer. I learned from the best, she said, echoing Maya's earlier words. You taught me that small acts of kindness create ripples. No, you taught yourself that. I just reminded you what you already knew. The shadow's expression grew serious. Jennifer, I want to make a donation to your fund, a substantial one. $10 million to be transferred from various legitimate business holdings so there are no questions about its origin. Jennifer's breath caught. That's incredibly generous. But are you sure? That's a lot of money. It's money that will save lives. Money that will help families like yours was, like mine was. Of course, I'm sure. He pulled an envelope from his jacket. The details are in here. Have the hospital's financial office contact the attorney listed, and the transfer will be completed within a week. Jennifer took the envelope with trembling hands. I don't know how to thank you. Don't thank me. Just keep doing what you're doing. Keep helping people. Keep being a light in the darkness. The shadow's voice softened. My mother would have loved you, you know. She would have seen herself in you, someone who worked impossibly hard, who sacrificed everything for her child, who never lost her compassion despite her suffering. I wish I could have met her. So do I. He glanced across the crowd to where Maya was chatting animatedly with Mrs. Chen. Your daughter is remarkable. She's going to do great things with her life. You've given her something invaluable, not just financial security, but the example of how to turn adversity into strength. She learned from watching her father fight cancer with grace and dignity. I'm just trying to live up to his example. You're doing more than that. You're surpassing it. The shadow took a step back. I should go before people start asking questions about who I am and why I'm talking to the guest of honor. But Jennifer, I'm proud of you, prouder than I can adequately express. He started to walk away, then turned back one more time. Oh, and one more thing. That hospital maid who saved my sister 3 years ago? I finally found her. She's working as a nursing assistant now in Portland. I've set up a college fund for her daughter and arranged for her to receive a substantial scholarship to pursue her nursing degree. Thought you'd like to know that debt has been repaid. Jennifer felt tears spring to her eyes. That's wonderful. She must have been so grateful. She was. Just like I was grateful when you helped me find the ICU. Just like the families you help are grateful for your support. That's how it works, Jennifer. Kindness begets kindness. Help begets help. And slowly, one person at a time, we make the world a little less cruel. Then he was gone, disappearing into the crowd with the same effortless grace that characterized everything he did. Jennifer stood there for a moment, clutching the envelope containing the details of his donation, feeling the weight of everything that had happened over the past 10 months. One mistaken text message. That's all it had taken to set in motion a chain of events that had transformed her life completely. She thought about the cleaning lady she'd been. Invisible, exhausted, drowning in debt and despair. And she looked around at who she was now. honored, respected, making a real difference in people's lives. The journey between those two versions of herself had been terrifying and painful and miraculous all at once. Mom! Maya bounded over, her face flushed with excitement. People keep coming up to me and saying how proud I must be of you, and I am, Mom. I'm so proud I could burst. Jennifer pulled her daughter into a tight hug. I'm proud of you too, baby. You've handled all these changes with such grace. You've been so strong. I learned from you, Maya said simply. You always told me that being strong doesn't mean not being scared. It means being scared but doing the hard thing anyway. You've been doing hard things for as long as I can remember. Jennifer felt tears streaming down her face. When did you get so wise? I'm almost 11. That's practically ancient. Maya grinned. Then her expression turned more serious. Mom? Are we going to be okay? Like forever okay? Not just for now? Jennifer thought about the money in her bank account, about her salary and benefits, about the fund that bore her name and would continue helping families long after she was gone. She thought about the Shadow's protection, about Mrs. Chen watching over them, about the network of support they'd built, but most importantly, she thought about who she'd become, someone who could face challenges head on, who could advocate for herself and others, who could turn pain into purpose. That was the real security, the thing no one could take away. Yes, baby, Jennifer said firmly. We're going to be okay, forever okay, because we're strong, we're smart, and we take care of each other, and that's all we really need. The gala continued around them, music playing, people mingling, laughter and conversation filling the warm summer air. Jennifer stood with her daughter in the middle of it all, feeling a profound sense of gratitude for the strange journey that had brought them here. She touched the phoenix pendant at her throat. She wore it every day now, a reminder of transformation and rebirth. Rising from ashes, becoming something stronger. Her phone buzzed one more time. The Shadow. You did it, Jennifer Amber. You took your worst moment and transformed it into your greatest triumph. That's the definition of courage. Now go enjoy your victory. You've earned every bit of it. Jennifer smiled and typed back, Thank you for everything, for seeing me, for believing in me, for keeping your promises. Always. That's what friends do. Friends. A cleaning lady and a mafia boss. A widow and a man haunted by his mother's death. Two people connected by one accidental text message, and a shared belief that the world could be better, that kindness mattered, that the invisible people deserved to be seen. It was strange. It was complicated. It was morally ambiguous in ways that would never make sense to most people. But it was real. And it had saved her life. Jennifer pocketed her phone and took Maya's hand. Come on, baby. Let's go find Mrs. Chen and get some of that fancy dessert before it's all gone. Race you! Maya took off running, laughing as Jennifer chased after her through the crowd. And in that moment, running after her daughter at a gala held in her honor, wearing a beautiful dress and a phoenix pendant, with a fund bearing her name that would help countless families, Jennifer realized she'd finally found what she'd been searching for since Marcus died. Not just survival, not just security, but joy. Real, uncomplicated joy that came from living instead of just existing, from having a purpose larger than herself, from knowing she mattered. She'd been invisible for so long, overlooked and undervalued and forgotten. But one mistaken text message to a Korean mafia boss had changed everything. It had opened doors she hadn't known existed. It had given her the chance to become someone new, someone stronger, someone who could help others the way she'd needed help. And now, 10 months later, Jennifer Amber wasn't invisible anymore. She was seen. She was heard. She mattered. And she was finally, truly, completely home. 2 years later, Jennifer stood in the hallway of St. Mercy's Hospital, reviewing charts on her tablet before her next patient meeting. The past 2 years had been a whirlwind of growth. The Jennifer Amber Patient Support Fund now totaled $18 million and had helped over 300 families. Jennifer had been promoted to Director of Patient Support Services, overseeing a team of 5 coordinators who worked with families throughout the hospital system. Maya was thriving in middle school, her artwork winning competitions, and her grades consistently excellent. She'd grown into a confident, compassionate 13-year-old who talked about maybe becoming a doctor someday, or maybe an artist, or maybe both. Jennifer loved that her daughter had the luxury of dreaming without limits. Their apartment had been upgraded to a modest two-bedroom in a better neighborhood, though Jennifer had resisted the Shadow's offers to set them up somewhere more luxurious. She wanted to maintain some independence, some sense that they'd earned their better life through her work, not just through his generosity. Though his generosity had certainly helped. The Shadow checked in regularly, always from a distance, always careful to maintain their strange friendship without drawing unwanted attention. He'd attended Maya's middle school graduation last year, sitting in the back, barely noticeable, and had sent elaborate gifts on birthdays and holidays. He was, Jennifer had come to accept, a permanent presence in their lives, an unlikely guardian, a complicated friend, a reminder that people couldn't be easily categorized as good or evil. Eleanor Patterson was serving her sentence at a federal facility in Ohio. Richard Patterson had remarried, a woman he'd met through foundation work, someone who shared his commitment to genuine charity. The Tommy Patterson Foundation was stronger than ever, its reputation restored, its mission clear, and Jennifer had finally made peace with her role in all of it. She'd done the right thing. The consequences had been complicated and painful for some people, but ultimately justice had been served and countless families had been helped. That was what mattered. Jennifer, Dr. Richardson approached with a smile. Can you join me in my office for a moment? There's something I want to discuss with you. Jennifer followed him, curious. When they were seated, Dr. Richardson pulled out a folder and slid it across the desk. What's this? A proposal. The hospital board wants to expand the patient support program to all departments, not just oncology, but cardiology, pediatrics, general medicine, everything. And we want you to head up the expansion. It would mean a significant promotion, a substantial salary increase, and the opportunity to shape patient care across the entire hospital system. Jennifer opened the folder and scanned the details, her heart racing. This was enormous, a chance to extend the model she'd built to help even more people, to make an even bigger impact. Can I think about it? She asked. Of course. Take a week. But Jennifer, I hope you say yes. What you've built in oncology is remarkable, and it deserves to be replicated everywhere. You deserve this opportunity. That evening, Jennifer sat with Maya at their kitchen table and told her about the offer. That's amazing, Mom. Maya's eyes lit up. You have to say yes. It would mean longer hours sometimes, more responsibility, more stress. But it would also mean helping more people, right? Doing more of what you love? Maya reached across the table and squeezed her mother's hand. Dad always said you were meant to do big things. This sounds like a big thing. Jennifer felt tears prick at her eyes. When did you get so wise? I learned from the best, Maya said with a grin. The same phrase she'd been using for years now, the one that never failed to make Jennifer smile. Later that night, after Maya had gone to bed, Jennifer stood at her window and looked out at the city. She pulled out her phone and texted the Shadow. The hospital offered me a promotion, Director of Patient Support Services for the entire hospital system. It's a big opportunity. His response came quickly. Of course they did. You've revolutionized patient care in oncology. They'd be fools not to expand your role. Are you going to accept? I think so. It feels right. But it also feels scary, like maybe I'm taking on more than I can handle. Jennifer, you accidentally texted a mafia boss about evidence of high society corruption, testified in federal court, and built a multi-million-dollar charitable fund from scratch. You can handle a promotion. Jennifer laughed, the sound echoing in her quiet apartment. When you put it that way. Besides, Marcus would want you to say yes. He'd want you to keep growing, keep challenging yourself, keep making a difference. Honor his memory by living fully. Jennifer touched the phoenix pendant at her throat. She'd never stopped wearing it. You're right, I'm going to say yes. Good, congratulations, Director Amber. Has a nice ring to it. Thank you for everything. For believing in me from the beginning. Always, Jennifer. You're one of the best people I know. Never forget that. Jennifer set her phone down and looked at the photo on her nightstand. Marcus on their wedding day, young and healthy and full of hope for their future together. He was gone, but his love lingered in everything she did, in the way she raised Maya, in her commitment to helping others the way she wished someone could have helped them. I'm doing it, she whispered to his photo. I'm living, not just surviving, just like you always wanted me to. The next morning, Jennifer walked into Dr. Richardson's office and accepted the promotion. Within 6 months, the patient support program had expanded throughout St. Mercy's, and Jennifer was training a team of coordinators to work with families in every department. The model was so successful that other hospitals began reaching out, asking for guidance on implementing similar programs. Jennifer became a speaker at healthcare conferences, sharing her story and advocating for patient centered care that addressed not just medical needs, but emotional and financial challenges. She was interviewed for medical journals, featured in local news stories, and invited to serve on advisory boards for patient advocacy organizations. The invisible cleaning lady had become a voice for the voiceless, a champion for the overlooked, a proof that transformation was possible. And through it all, the shadow remained in the background, watching, supporting, keeping his promises. He attended Maya's high school graduation years later, sitting in the back as always. He sent a massive bouquet when Jennifer won a humanitarian award from the State Medical Society. He made sure that every family the fund helped received not just financial assistance, but the kind of comprehensive support that made real differences in their lives. Their friendship remained one of Jennifer's most treasured secrets, a connection that made no sense on paper but made perfect sense in practice. He'd seen her when she was invisible. He'd believed in her when she couldn't believe in herself. And he'd opened the doors that allowed her to become who she was meant to be. Years after that mistaken text message, Jennifer would sometimes look back on that night and marvel at how one small mistake had changed everything. How exhaustion and accidentally typing the wrong contact had set in motion a chain of events that saved her life and the lives of hundreds of others. She'd learned that kindness created ripples, that pain could be transformed into purpose, that invisible people just needed someone willing to see them. She'd learned that strength came in many forms, that courage often looked like simply showing up and telling the truth, and that second chances were real if you were brave enough to reach for them. Most importantly, she'd learned that she was enough, exactly as she was, with all her flaws and fears and imperfections. She'd always been enough. She just needed someone to help her see it. Jennifer Amber had risen from the ashes of loss and poverty and invisibility. She'd become a phoenix. And she would spend the rest of her life making sure that other people got the same chance at transformation, at redemption, at rising. Because that's what people did when they'd been saved. They turned around and saved others. One mistaken text message had taught her that, and she would never, ever forget it. Thank you for following Jennifer and Maya's journey from invisibility to recognition, from survival to thriving, and from a single mistaken text to a life transformed. Sometimes the wrong number turns out to be exactly the right one. And here's what I need from you. Drop a comment below telling me where you're watching from, and more importantly, have you ever felt invisible in your own life? Have you ever had one moment, one decision, one accident that changed everything? Share your story with our community.